Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Brabert. Alongside me is Logan Camden, and today we are joined by a very special guest. Our good friend Theo Ash is here with us to rank every team in the AFC. Theo, my friend, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to get into it here.
Oh, and boy, are we excited to have you. We just had your handsome co-host, Matthew Sponhour, on, and he was a delight as always. And you're always a delight. Now, I don't want to steal the thunder from you as our most esteemed guest, but I do have to say I had a big plan for this show, a big plan. I'm in New York right now. I was shooting this thing for House of Highlights all day with Isaac Gutierrez of the Deep 3 pod. You may know him. And I was going to have him come onto this podcast and pretend to be me for a brief period of time. Now, he's unavailable. He can't do it. But can you just imagine, just for a moment, imagine what a great moment that would have been, the laughs we all would have had?
That reminds me of something we did with you, Carson, on April Fool's years back.
That's true, actually.
Where you were on before Nerd Sesh really hit the big time and pretended to be Matthew Sponhour.
Yeah.
And then my sister was me, and
That
one
was
of Bladen's
awesome.
friends was Bladen, and you guys cold opened the show all together.
That's a great point. So this idea that I've had, it's not even original. It's something that I've already been a part of. I completely forgot about that. That was very funny. Now, Logan, you're wearing a jersey backwards. Would you like to make a comment about that?
Yeah, only because I was getting Mason Rudolph jersey allegations before the podcast. They said this dude showed up in the Mason Rudolph jersey. Now that we've cleared the air, I'm in the much more drippier Justin Fields jersey. Now I can reverse this MF and put it on regular style.
And you were saying you were such a big Rudolph guy, not so much for the quarterbacking, but the off-the-field stuff, or even the on-the-field stuff, but not actually playing football, more so the demeanor. What is that?
Look,
That seems like borderline offensive. I think you're trying to do a yawn, but that's not what I'm getting.
all I'm saying, if me and Mason Rudolph were in the same room, only one of us is leaving, and it's not going to be Mason Rudolph, man. I don't support that guy. I wish Miles
Isaac
Garrett would come back
Gutierrez
and
were in the same
bonk
room.
him
You
in the
couldn't
head.
tell us apart.
I thought you wore him, to be honest, on this episode when we first hopped on the call.
Well, that's why it would have been such a great bit. And once again, just imagine for a moment the laughs we would have had, the clips. Just imagine how viral the clips would have been. But wasn't to be on this episode. We still have Theo, though. And that's the good news. Logan, are you doing your fly impression again?
No, I was trying to make a fire.
Oh, cool. Going forward, you'll probably want some kindling for that, but that's a lesson for another time. Let's rank these AFC teams, gentlemen, and Theo, as our most esteemed guest, I'll throw it to you first. Who do you think just reeks? Who's going to be the worst team in the AFC in the big 2026?
Oh, man. Probably Cleveland is who I'm thinking at the moment. I just feel like it's going to be hard with a quarterback room that is actively sabotaging the offense. Like, they want to see it all fall apart, it seems, more than any other quarterback room. Like, I just do not trust any of these guys to not, like, double clutch an open receiver and then take a strip sack or throw an interception, like, trying to make something happen that didn't need to happen. Dylan Gabriel maybe is a little bit quicker to release the ball, but like he threw a pick in the first preseason game that airmailed Cole Wilson by about 10 feet. Now maybe preseason is where you figure these things out, and now he knows he can't overthrow receivers by 10 feet, and maybe it's all smooth and good going forward for him. But I don't really think so. This is just such a bad quarterback room, which probably leads to such a bad offense. They've got first and second year players everywhere, like their top two receivers are rookies, I think. Their top two other weapons, their running back Judkins and Fannin, the tight end, are second-year players. So are people going to be at their spots on time? Or are there going to be a lot of ways to, change the plays based on the defense that you're seeing? If something changes, are people going to make the right adjustments? Like, it's young and bad at quarterback. The line is a hodgepodge of castaways from other teams, whether it be they're just not that good to deserve contracts or they're always injured, something like that. The Browns have collected all of them in hope that they're a little bit maybe they were weighed down by their situation. Someone like Zion Johnson, maybe if he wasn't in LA's terrible offensive line room, he could have held his own a little bit more. Instead, it's like bad to the left of him, jokers to the left of me, clowns to the right, whatever the lyric is. So that's their bet on the offensive line, but it's not a very inspiring bet to me. And then, of course, they lost Myles Garrett on the edge, and I just don't think Jared Verse is that same level of player, so I don't think that their collective pass rush is going to be very good. And I worry even more about the run defense without Myles Garrett, because I think their defensive tackles are good pass rushing bodies, but are they good run defending bodies? This was a terrible run defense by the end of last year. Now you've lost Garrett. So there's a lot with Cleveland to nitpick. I like some of their young core pieces, but I also just think that this team is not ready to win football games.
I have the Browns at number 15. To me, the bottom two is pretty clear cut. There's another team that I hate just a tiny bit more, but I think the Browns are going to be absolutely awful, and I just don't think there's any way to take them remotely seriously until they don't have the most disastrous quarterback room in the NFL, and I think that is the really backbreaking thing, how prone to terribly bad plays Deshaun Watson and Shedeur are. Like, those guys are turnover machines, and Dylan Gabriel less so, but then he's like the least explosive quarterback in the NFL. And so there's just no way for them to get anything out of that quarterback room that isn't really bad, especially when the offensive line is still a disaster and the receiving room is lacking. And the defense we have seen be solid in recent years, but so much of that has been on the back of Myles Garrett being an absolute superhero. And so with him being gone, I do think they're going to take a step back on that side of the ball too. I think that this is a awful football team. In fact, I think the two worst teams in the NFL are in the AFC, and the Browns are one of them. Again, there is a team that I think is even a little bit more disgusting. But Logan, where do you come down on the Browns?
Yeah, I'm a little closer to you, Carson. I've got them in my 15 spot. I've got one team that I like less than Cleveland. There's not a reason to be super optimistic about Cleveland like you guys are saying. Like, they are obviously in the midst of a complete and utter rebuild. They have finally bitten the bullet and the thing that they were staring in the mirror at for so long and dealing away Myles Garrett. But there are some young players that I like here, and I watched a lot of Browns football last season. I think I probably watched the Browns. They were the second team that I watched the most next to the Steelers. And
you got great taste.
You know, there just is there's a lot of young players that I like here, man. I am still a supporter of Shedeur Sanders. I don't understand. I want to start with the quarterback position here, because Dylan Gabriel is a complete lost cause. That guy is not a starting quarterback or anywhere close to in the NFL. The appeal of him was that this guy's played more, snaps and games than any other quarterback in college football history. You'd expect that he would be ready to take the field. Dylan Gabriel doesn't push the ball downfield. Like, I know some Browns fans last year tried to praise him. Doesn't turn the ball over. I didn't see Dylan Gabriel attempt a pass of more than 15 or 20 yards in the air at all. The guy is just, there's nothing there. Like, he is a complete lost cause. And I really don't understand running it back or being anywhere close to being optimistic with Deshaun Watson. Like, I get that they're bringing in a new mind, and that for some reason there's this sentiment in the Browns organization that because you're still paying him all this money, that they feel obligated to start him. To me, it is this sunken cost fallacy where it's like, just let him go, man. And so I just don't understand why Cleveland isn't just going to give the reins to Shedeur and let him rock out this season, for two reasons. One, if you let Shedeur start this entire season, Shedeur fanboys like me and all these other supporters in Cleveland will finally shut up if he sucks. Like, if he just stinks and you let him play the entire year,
is that
just
true?
Give up.
Is that true? Do you sincerely believe that? Do you think that the Shedeur rabid fan base is rational and that they won't just make more excuses? Because I don't know that there's going to be like any clean conclusion where people are just totally rational about Shedeur.
There's no downside to playing the guy. If he plays 15-plus games and stinks, you can just go, I don't know what to tell you guys. We played him for the year and he stunk. And you're going to stink regardless. You're not going to win that many games anyway. If you just get another top pick.
Yeah.
And if he's great, or if he's good, awesome. You have something to buy in for the next year as your franchise QB. There's just no upside with Deshaun or Dylan Gabriel. I actually think the worst-case scenario is Deshaun plays them out of getting one of these top 5 picks for next year, is mediocre enough to maybe justify getting another contract. Like, I think that is the absolute worst scenario. I think there's absolutely zero upside with any of these other guys. I would start Shedeur. That being said, the QB room doesn't have any of these young guys that I'm really optimistic about. Judkins looked really good last year. I like Dylan Sampson. Obviously, Judkins is coming off of a really major lower leg injury that I'm a little nervous about. We'll have to see what he looks like. Concepcion, I have really liked clips of him in the preseason thus far. I think that he is going to have a good year. I love Harold Fannin Jr. I think he's an absolute stud. I think there's something in Denzel Boston. And then defensively, they still have some guys that I like. Mason Graham, second season. Jared Verse stepping into the fold. Carson Schweschinger was awesome last year. Like, I'm not trying to fire up the Browns for this season. Are they going to be good this year? But I do think that long-term, Andrew Berry is building out a decent foundation, and they are acquiring picks for the future. So they're not going to be good this year. They are, in my opinion, the second worst team in football, but I like their prospects for the future. They've got a lot of draft picks. They do have young players I buy into, but ultimately, I mean, like you guys are saying, the hardest limiter of this team is the QB room, and it is the least inspiring of any team going into this next season. Even, I think of a team that we're probably about to talk about next that doesn't have a great QB room. I think the Browns are in even more despair.
Yeah. It was the worst offense in the league last year. Catastrophic in terms of turnovers, but also just couldn't move the ball on the ground or through the air. And I just don't see why it would be any better this year. I'm with you that they should start Shedeur. I see no reason to start Deshaun Watson. And like even the scenario that you're talking about with him of being the sort of capable vet, like
only
last
reason
time
I
we
say
saw
that,
him, he was awful.
No, I know.
And then he tore
the only
his
reason I say
Achilles.
that is because anytime I have heard Todd Monken talk to the press, there is some delusional part of that man's brain, and I don't know if he's doing it for the press and media or if he genuinely believes it, but he is peddling this sort of, I think we're going to ride with Deshaun. And I'm with you, man. I think we've seen for 5 years that this guy fucking sucks and should not be in the NFL, let alone have a job at being another starter. But I don't know. The only reason I mention that is just because I think Monken believes it.
Well, I think Deshaun Watson is making $40 million. That's his cap hit next year. And I think you say there's no upside, but like they gave him $40 million at some point for a reason. They gave him a lot more than $40 million, right? Like that's just this year's cap hit with a bunch of void years after this. So that $40 million should probably be more like $70 million. It's crazy the amount that they have invested in him. And at the end of the day, like they're trying to recoup that investment. It's as unlikely as it is. They're like, there's nothing better for us to do, but try to see if this
do you feel
isn't
that way
the
too,
worst
Theo?
trade in the NFL history, but it is, and it will continue to be.
It's the worst trade contract combo
100p.
in sports
No
history.
doubt.
Like, I really don't know what compares
Yeah.
to give up as many assets as they did, to give up as much money as they did for a guy to be this awful on the field, this awful off the field, this incapable of even staying on the field. Like, it is truly an all-around disaster. Like, it's the worst front office decision in sports history that I can think of.
And it compounds when you consider the opportunity cost, the fact that they had a franchise or borderline franchise QB in-house that they could have gotten on a very, very friendly and cheap contract for probably
and gotten Will Anderson
3 to 4 years. No, dude, it just sucks. I mean, like, Browns fans had their brief window when that defense came together and was the most monstrous unit in the NFL, and they were the only team in NFL history to make the playoffs with 5 different starting quarterbacks in an individual season. And then the dumbass owner, I put that all on Haslam, man. He's got to wear that, but 100p. Browns are going to stink, bottom line. What's the overall? What's the max win total for the Browns this year?
Well, they do have a very easy schedule. They play the NFC South, which is obviously the Panthers, Buccaneers, Saints, and Falcons, who none of them are particularly intimidating. And then they also get like the Raiders, the Giants, the Titans, the Jets. So those are 8 pretty
riveting
easy games right there.
Yeah, get your TV schedule, get them lined up, man. You aren't going to want to miss those.
The AFC North, like I feel like every game is a coin flip.
It is.
Like especially the Browns and the Bengals, like
and
just has been a total
yeah.
a total weird coin flip, but I think that has a lot to do with Myles Garrett. honestly.
Yeah.
So they're still last in this division. But the easy schedule, I could see them getting to, I think I said 4, and I think I'm going to stick
5.
with 4.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
5 is probably the ceiling, but I do think that schedule is an advantage they have over the team that I have dead last, because the Miami Dolphins have a brutal schedule. They have the second hardest schedule in the NFL, and I think they are going to suck at just about everything. I think their defense is a disaster. They really have no edge talent. I think their secondary will be one of, if not the worst in the league. And then offensively, they are just so depleted. The offensive line is bad. They are walking into week 1 with a generationally bad receiver room. Like, it is remarkable how little talent they have there. And so when you compare all that with everybody else in the conference, and then you look at the brutal schedule they do have in front of them, I just think Malik Willis is a competent quarterback. I'd be interested to see him as a starter in a good situation, but I just don't think he and Jeff Hafley coming in as head coach can really do much at all to keep this absolute shitstorm from being exactly that.
Yeah.
The most staggering thing to me about the Dolphins is the fact that I think they have the most dead cap money of any team going into a season in NFL history. They have, by far most in the NFL, they have $180 million in dead cap this year, and $99 million of that is to Tua Tagovailoa, which is by far the biggest dead cap hit in NFL history. And really, it just comes back to that. Dude, when over half of your cap is allocated to guys who aren't on your team, it's really just that hard to put out a competent roster. Like, there are guys that I like. I'm rooting for Malik Willis. He was phenomenal as the backup in Green Bay. This is, he comes over with Hafley, but obviously this is a much different situation. I like Achane. He rocks. He's a great player. But when you've got a quarterback like this that you don't have a ton of confidence in, that doesn't have a ton of tape, what would make you feel better about Malik Willis? It would be having weapons in the receiving game. It would be having an offensive line. It would be having a defense that inspires you. And the Dolphins just, quite frankly, don't have any of that. There's just so many different variables at so many different position groups. The coach doesn't blow me away. Like, I think Hafley's a good DC. I don't know how to feel about him as a head coach. And then, I circle back to the dead cap thing. It's just the odds are all stacked up against Miami. And Carson, you bring up the schedule. It's just all this coming together. I think the Dolphins are going to be drafting first in next year's draft.
I can see it. I mean, when I was going through the Dolphins tape, like, I just wrote a big missing sign in my notes and just started writing names of basically everybody who made a play. Like, Minkah Fitzpatrick, oh, he's gone. Rasul Douglas, oh, he's gone. Jalen Waddle, oh, he's gone. Darren Waller, oh, he's gone. Tyreek Hill, oh, he's gone. There were more defenders, too, that, like, are just Jalen Phillips, oh, he's gone. Like, it's just they're the difference between them and even the Browns, although I guess the Browns did ship out Myles Garrett. Maybe the difference between them and, let's say, the Jets in this division. The Dolphins are trying to lose. They're trying to tank, and Aaron Glenn is trying to kind of keep some of these old vets and keep his job. So there's, like, a certain soul that I believe exists in, like, New York, for example, that Miami just sold off this offseason, essentially.
Right.
And maybe that's a good move if they get the first overall pick. Like, I can see this being the right thing to do going forward. But this year, it's just tough to look at this defense and say that they're going to stop many people. And I actually like their offensive line a decent amount with Patrick Paul and Aaron Brewer and Caden Proctor, their rookie left guard. Like, that's some serious athleticism to go along with Malik Willis's athleticism, with Achane's athleticism. Like, it's a bunch of fast, big guys who are going to be kind of tough to track down, tough to tackle, and can really get out in space and move. That, to me, is more of an identity that I can kind of ascertain than what the Browns have. That's what I like about the Dolphins, is kind of the pieces that exist in that run game, the creases they can make, and how Achane can exploit them. But man, this coaching staff is like Bobby Slowick as the offensive coordinator, who was not good in Houston. I think Kevin Patullo is their passing game coordinator. Jeff Hafley, I don't think he was a great DC for Green Bay. I mean, he was solid, but I mean, last year they got Micah Parsons, and just their defense slipped, and I don't think that's the sign of a great defensive coordinator. To keep a long story short, I guess. So, and does any of it matter if you can't get it to an open guy downfield? Like Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and Darren Waller all being gone, those were the only big positives that their receiving game really had last year outside of Achane, I guess, checking it down. And if Willis is scanning the field and not really seeing guys at their landmarks or seeing guys open versus man coverage, like doesn't really the line isn't good enough to give them that much time, I guess, you know.
They're going to have to get kind of gimmicky, right? Like, I would assume so.
Yeah. I mean, they were with McDaniel. It was kind of cool to watch, like, their run scheme with McDaniel. It was a lot of pitches and getting Aaron Brewer out in space. And especially with Malik Willis, you can kind of add that aspect into the run game. There are pieces there, but I think you need a little bit of creativity. You can't just run, you know, your basic inside zone and wide zone and have it be enough. You're just not talented enough, in my opinion. There's got to be stuff that really takes advantage of these guys in space, like screens and toss plays. But they just fired the guy who I thought was taking advantage of those things really brilliantly.
Right.
But I don't know. Maybe they left a few pages at the facility.
I think you really said it all there. Like, the argument for the Dolphins not being last is the path to offensive competence, which the Browns just completely lack, and that would be predicated upon this team really maxing out what they could have in the run game between Achane, who, like, truly is such a special, explosive player, and how he was able to produce within already a pretty shitty offensive context last year is really impressive. And then obviously adding a dual threat like Malik Willis. But then, as you said, the brain drain offensively just makes me pessimistic. And again, the lack of pass catchers is so egregious. Like, this was an exodus of talent on both sides of the ball from a team that wasn't that talented, from a team that already sucked and already like was at wit's end because it had just been such a frustrating trend of regression from them. So I'm all the way out on the Dolphins, even though, again, I think Malik Willis in the right situation could be a little bit interesting. This is just not the situation. So, Theo, where does Miami land for you? Are they number 15?
They are. They're number 15. Okay. To me, those two are kind of in a tier by themselves at the bottom.
Yeah, I tend to agree. So, who is in your 14 spot?
Probably Tennessee. I want to like Cam Ward. I think I like him more than the other quarterbacks in his draft class, like even Shuck and Jackson Dart. Based on what I saw last year, I thought that answer was pretty clear. I think that he wants to kind of get through reads and get through structure. I think he has a big arm and a really beautiful spiral. I think he actually has processing ability to read defenses and find creative answers on the backside, or, you know, he's a game, like he's a gamer, I think, and I like his high end flashes, but you can't ignore at the same time some of the statistical stuff, which is like he's at the bottom of all the efficiency metrics, a lot of bad throws, and he's just horrible under pressure. That's the thing that really concerned me from last year, is he has these moments where he's like, oh, I'm the first overall pick. I dominated college. I can take off here, and he just can't really leave the pocket behind him and streak downfield the way the real elite playmakers can. And he seemed to always get caught in those situations. He drew his arm back a lot and fumbled in big situations last season, like funny fumbles, like clown show fumbles. And then this preseason starts, and like we see the starters out there, and I see the exact same things, like drawing his arm back, these half fumbles. You're praying maybe they're incomplete, just weird pocket movement that even seemed like he was going through some growing pains. There were like backside digs that he just wasn't on time for hitting. It just looked like, it left me wondering, like, what are these guys practicing at training camp here in Tennessee? And that's just preseason. Like, it doesn't have to matter, but Tennessee is starting from such a low place, being a top 5 pick each of the last 2 years. I just don't really they haven't given me a reason to be like, oh, Tennessee, they're about to take a big jump. I just don't feel I'm not feeling the love towards Tennessee in that way. I liked one of their free agent signings, John Franklin Myers. and think him and Jeffrey Simmons could be pretty sweet. But man, outside of that, there's not a lot that's like, oh, I got to turn on Tennessee and watch this because I'm really interested and excited about how this will go.
I was excited about Tennessee coming into the preseason just because I really liked the coaching staff hires that they had, like all the former head coaches that they brought in, and normally like that's what I'm going to rest on. But it does come back to Cam Ward for me and why I am nervous about Tennessee. And you read my mind, Theo, like you asking, what are these guys practicing? It's just so strange to me that, and I get that they're different staffs for both of these guys, but Will Levis comes in as a rookie, makes these back-breaking rookie mistakes, comes in year 2, is still making those same issues. Cam Ward kind of wiped it away. I was like, rookie mistakes. And that first preseason game, it does bother me. Like, there is just a level of pocket presence and polish and refinement that I have just not seen within Cam Ward that I was hoping at this point in his development he could be further along. Now, I do want to give him some grace here because Trevor Lawrence came in, right? And, like, he just had a huge year. And I know both of you guys have been T-Law guys, stayed and stuck with him through all of the down years. And you can't take for granted how detrimental having a bad offensive coordinator or a bad first head coach with a young quarterback and how that can hinder their development early on. So I want to give Cam Ward grace, but it's where I come back to Tennessee and I ask, why didn't you guys prioritize that guy? Why didn't you go out and try to find him? Because to me, it's on Brian Daboll. Robert Saleh's not a QB guy. Brian Daboll got the credit for Josh Allen developing into what he is, but it's like, is that
it's
really
Josh
Brian
Allen,
Daboll, or
right?
is it just Josh Allen
Is
being
it just
that
Josh
one-of-one
Allen?
freak development talent? Exactly. And, like, there are guys that, like you're saying, I like with Tennessee. I like that they brought in Carnell Tate. I like Tony Pollard and Spears as a duo. The offensive line, I'm going to be honest, leaves a lot to be desired. I like Latham. Dan Moore Jr. got the worst fucking contract this offseason, man. He's the most overpaid guy I've ever. What Steelers games were the Titans watching, bruh? Like, he got replaced by an undrafted rookie last year, man. Like, Dan Moore Jr. blows. So, I don't know. I was optimistic coming into the season. I could have projected them higher, but again, that was with me kind of just filling in the blanks for Cam Ward development where I just don't know if I should just de facto factor that in when I am still skeptical about that. I think that is going to be really crucial to the Titans getting better, and there's just not like overwhelming talent. So they're not – I actually have a team in my 14 spot, but I have Tennessee at 13, so they're just one spot off from you, Theo.
And even if Cam Ward develops into like an MVP candidate, the roster still has like a lot to contend with. This was the worst pass defense in the league last year. They got Alontae Taylor, who I think of as more of like a blitzing nickel who creates big plays downhill. But I don't know if I think of him as an elite cover guy. And then the other feature of the preseason was Cordell Flott getting like his lunch money taken by the rookie Dazon Stribling, like just dunking on him huge twice. Like, I like Cordell Flott's start-stop. He's really scrappy and had some nice plays last season. But at the end of the day, he's tiny. Jermaine Johnson was a guy that you could really go after for the Jets, and he just couldn't finish plays or make a lot of tackles. I think the Jets won that trade for Devondre Sweat. I think Sweat is a little bit more useful. The edges, the corners. I'm not a huge Carnell Tate fan. I didn't think that he was fourth overall pick worthy. I thought him and Denzel Boston had a lot of similar qualities, and Denzel Boston went in round 2. I don't know. I don't know. And right guard, who is Fernando Carmona? I don't. Is he going to be a positive? They lost their center, and now they're trying to replace him with Schlottman and the rookie from Indiana, Pat Coogan. I just, it's a lot of holes where even if Ward is like Trevor Lawrence level, which I think he could, like, I don't know if I think he could be. I think he could be like one of those misunderstood, like more talented than the situation guys.
Yeah.
But even if he does take a major leap, it's like, man, I just don't know if I trust the rest of this roster anyway.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that's where, like, if you have any optimism for year 2 Cam Ward, how much can it really mean for the Titans anyways? Like, there isn't the path here for what Caleb or T-Law did, where it's like they take a big step forward in year 2 and their teams make the playoffs. And it's like, yippee, look at the progress that we made in this single year. Like, the Titans roster last year was so horrific in every way, and it's just not that much better. Like, I think the receivers are, like, kind of intriguing with Tate coming in and with Wandale coming in. And, like, I'm not a Cam Ward pessimist. I do think he's talented. I think he's obviously super erratic, and there's a lot to iron out in terms of pocket presence and timing and accuracy. He also did make just some of those, like, oh, my God, what a talent kind of throws last year. Like, clearly there's upside here. Is this the situation that's going to harness it meaningfully this year? Not optimistic. I'm not that high on Dable. And then this defense, I just don't see how you really turn into a functional unit. So I think the Titans really suck. I have them 14th too.
I agree on the talent things. The only thing that makes me pause with the Titans is just Salah's ability to elevate mediocre defensive talent and to get them to buy in. Like, I don't know. I think in New York he had some real defensive talent, some Pro Bowl, borderline all-pro caliber guys, but San Francisco routinely throughout his tenure there, dealt with a lot of injury. And I get it's different. That's the Niners. They're a different, much better organization, right? But that's the only thing that makes me wait with Tennessee is just wonder if they're like a really and I'm not saying that they're going to be top 10 kind of unit, but could Dable get them to like league average defense? I don't think that's out of the question. I agree on the talent points. I don't want to overlook the fact that Salah has gotten the most out of his defenses normally wherever he goes.
Yeah, I think Salah did a bang-up job last year after getting dealt an obviously really bad hand with Fred Warner and Nick Bosa going down, and obviously they continued to compete. But at the same time, I mean, the back half of that season, they were 25th in defensive EPA per play. Like, they just started – that Bears game was like an absolute shootout. They won that game. But I think Shanahan has more ability to elevate a bad team or a team without a ton of visible talent and create offensive results more than I trust Saleh to come out here and set the world on fire. I mean, I'd rather honestly that be a sexy coordinator hire than like an old retread head coach. You know what I mean? Like if they were a team that got Jesse Minter, I'd be like, well, then let's see what
Kubiak or Minter rocks, but
or Kubiak, right? Like somebody. I mean, this is where a lot of the great coaches tend to come from. Is like, oh, this guy was a really high-end coordinator. You hire him, and now he's a really high-end head coach. I mean, that's a lot of times what happens with the great ones. They don't start somewhere and stink, and then get rehired somewhere and are great. Like sometimes it happens, but I don't know if I have that kind of confidence in Saleh. He came in and the first thing he did was like ban seed oils from the cafeteria.
At least he's been listening to his podcasts. I'm sure he heard that somewhere. I think there's a reason that the Titans didn't get any of the top candidates, and it's because this job sucks at the end of the day. Even if you do like Cam Ward, like they're just so far away, and I do think the lack of defensive talent is still going to majorly hold them back. I think the secondary sucks. I mean, I think Franklin Myers and Jeffrey Simmons are like pretty intriguing up front, but there's just not pieces around them. I think this is still a pretty bad team on both sides of the ball.
I think Saleh's solutions like is let's be simple, let's play quarters, let's put a roof on everything and play fast. And we're just gonna, and I think that can help a young player
step
not
up
look
from
terrible.
What the fucking Titans were last year, but yeah.
Oh yeah. Brian Callahan, that era will not be remembered at all. That was just such an uninspired hire that went absolutely nowhere.
Yeah,
I think the vision for the Titans is that they're the Patriots. Like Drake May was not statistically dominant his rookie year. Then all of a sudden he gets like a new coach and Stephon Diggs. He didn't even get that crazy of a receiving core. And then he got a great defensive tackle duo on the inside in Milton Williams and Christian Barmore. And that were kind of the pillars of what ended up being the AFC champions. And you squint and you look at the Titans and you say like, maybe they're a team that could kind of catch you by surprise. Like the Titans did with Stroud and the Patriots did with May and the Washington Commanders did with Jaden Daniels. But at the end of the day, like, the Patriots hired Mike Vrabel, who is the 1 seed in Tennessee. And this is Robert Saleh, who is not the 1 seed in New York.
Also, there's going to be 6 games. You know, I haven't. It doesn't really matter. The rest of the schedule does matter, but like they've got 6 games against teams that I actually like as well, too. Right? Like, there's no like easy games in this division. I like the Colts. I like the Texans. I really like the Jaguars.
Yeah, me
like
too.
they definitely feel like they are at the bottom of this division, but I could see them eking out 5 or 6. But I can't really see anything, I think, more than that.
So, Theo, let's move on to your 13 spot. Who you got?
I'll go with the Raiders here, the worst team in the league last year, but a team that's improved kind of a lot, and a team that intrigues me more than Tennessee does is like a team that could kind of catch fire quickly. I think their run game probably is where there's the most meat on the bone for improvement. Like, I really like Ashton Genty still. That guy is tough to bring down. You see a lot of plays blown dead where he's on his feet still by the end. They just stopped his forward progress because the entire defensive line teleported past the O-line. I think about the Seahawks and how bad that offense was kind of with Geno Smith, and what they kind of needed was just balance, and that's what Clint Kubiak was able to provide. Like, they ran it maybe a little bit too much, even with the wrong people, probably with Charbonnet taking up such a big chunk, but having that wide zone that was really a threat, and getting big with the tight ends, and having that as kind of the vanilla, and then the play action shots as the treasures in the Dairy Queen blizzard. Like, it made it a more before it was just like, let's drop back and pass, and the offensive line just got killed. And then Kubiak came in and just settled everything down with some tough kind of old school mentality, I feel like. And I feel like that's just that kind of real identity is just not something that Chip Kelly had last year. I don't think that they were calling like good plays.
They were calling plays that didn't exist.
They were calling plays that the wide receivers just were like seemingly freelancing on, or just going vertical. Like having, I think Kubiak could come in and kind of have his Kubiak effect that he's had in New Orleans. I mean, Derek Carr was on pace for a great season, and then he got hurt and injuries kind of derailed that. And then he went to Seattle and won the Super Bowl, and now he's here in Vegas with Genty and with Linderbaum now, and Colton Miller back healthy, and Mendoza obviously. So I think there's a lot to like here, but they're still number 14 after all this dick riding.
Yeah, I think that they are in a different category though from the bottom 3 teams, because I think there is cause for optimism. I think there's a world where this is a pretty decent football team. Like, I think the coaching upgrade is quite significant here. The Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly operation was a bona fide disaster.
Failure to launch.
Just like completely laughably bad. What are these guys even still doing running an NFL team? I love Clint Kubiak. I think he is a damn good hire. And then obviously the infusion of offensive talent with Mendoza, but I also think just by the nature of obviously a huge free agency signing with Linderbaum, but also 2 of your better offensive linemen, Colton Miller and Jackson Powers-Johnson, both getting back healthy, barely played last year. Like, this could be one of the most improved offensive lines in football. You know, I think all of us here tend to go to bat for Geno. It was a brutal year for him last year, but also that offensive line was so disgustingly bad, and I actually think that offensive line can be pretty decent this year. And then Genty, another guy who was a victim of just that horrific offensive line, I think is still a really good talent. He could be in for a breakout season. And like you said, you've got a guy who loves putting 2-3 tight ends on the field. You've got maybe the best tight end in football. You've got a solid backup tight end. There's a lot of potential for improvement here. I still think the wide receivers are pretty thin, pretty bad. So, like, I don't think the Raiders' offense is going to be good. I'm also not the biggest Mendoza guy. I think he's going to start pretty soon. I'm not high on him necessarily in the scope of, like, being a number 1 pick at quarterback, getting that sort of hype. I do think a lot of hype that he gets is sort of predicated upon, like, people loving the idea of what he represents. He's the cheery, great interview, great leader, pure pocket passer, won a national championship. He's just a winner. Like, Theo, I know you're very big on the toolsy guys and how a lot of the best quarterbacks in the NFL are these freak athletes who are also able to put together the polish and all this. I generally very much agree with that philosophy. I think it's hard to be truly elite at the position in today's NFL without being a plus athlete. And so that's where I'm not that high on the ceiling with Mendoza. But in terms of being able to functionally operate an offense as a rookie, I think he'll be pretty good at that. I think he'll be pretty solid. So I think there's a path to offensive competence here. And then defensively, I guess they could be decent with Crosby staying, and you add Nakobe Dean and Taron Johnson. Like, there's something there. I think it would take a hell of a coaching job for this to become like an interesting team, but they're far away. They're not like disastrous. They're not like a team that should be a laughing stock to me this year like they were last year at all.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes back to Kubiak. Not to beat a dead horse here, but I mean, he's the man. Carson and I have been glazing him since he since he was coaching in New Orleans with, you bring up Derek Carr. Like, I just think he elevates situations. And like you're saying, Theo,
I remember the Derek Carr beef from this show, Logan. I'm sure that watching him play well was
oh my God!
Well,
no,
it made the case for Clint Kubiak because I go, this guy fucking sucks. Clint Kubiak rocks, man. Look at what he made. Look at what he made Derek Carr do.
They should have just promoted him to head coach, man. Nothing against Kellen Moore, but they did not realize the gem they had.
Yeah, I mean, Kubiak rocks, and like you're saying, Theo, it brings the depth and layers to the offense, and what that does for a young quarterback alleviates some pressure off of his shoulders. And I agree with you guys. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of Mendoza's talent. Regardless of if he's good or not, I think Mendoza's going to have a 15-year career in the NFL because he is like the dream interview. Like, literally, the guy is going to take all blame, all accountability. I want that. That is exactly what I want in a quarterback. Like, so I think he's going to be around a while. But the important thing is when I'm not that big on his talent, he is paired with a coach that is going to get the most out of him and make sure that, you know, he's got simple decisions, that he's not overwhelmed. And I think it's just a really good pairing and a really good union. And I think Kubiak's just going to help Mendoza come along. Carson, you bring up the wideouts, and I don't disagree. I'm not blown away by the talent, but I think that the Raiders' offense may do something like Seattle did and go to some of these heavier sets potentially and run these two tight ends maybe with Bowers and Meyer, who, you know, Meyer's been hyped up since he came into the league, and he's kind of been underwhelming. But I do think that he's a solid blocker. He's not that agile and that good of a route runner, but he's still a big body. Like, I think that if they really establish the run this year with the improvements in the offensive line, which I'm big on because Linderbaum is a beast, Powers Johnson, I think with a competent coordinator and playing in the right position could be a lot better. I liked him as a prospect. Colton Miller does come back. Like, I think that there's something here with this offense. And then defensively, like you guys said, I mean, they're bringing back Max Crosby. I think that I'm optimistic. I'm excited to watch the Raiders play. I couldn't said that the past, 2 years. They were an actual dumpster fire. There's just a lot more talented teams. But I could see the Raiders, man, getting up to almost 500. I couldn't write that off, man. I really do believe in Kubiak as a coach like that. Like, he's that kind of coordinator to me.
Yeah, I think they've got the balance. They might be able to print money with play action. They've got a 1A pass rusher. They've got a lot of the important pieces, I think. I think with Mendoza, for me, my issue with him and why I think I've got the Vegas this low because of the quarterback room in part, even though Mendoza was the first overall pick. I think Mendoza has decent tools. I mean, he's tall with long levers. He can really stand in there and still see things, which is nice, especially in a offense that really prioritizes drawing up the linebackers and then targeting the middle of the field. There's that. And he's a really strong runner. Like, when he takes off, you can run QB power with him. He snakes and presses his linemen and can make kind of subtle cuts. And we saw the way the national championship game ended on that fourth down, which was cool. So I like his running. I like his height. I think he's a little bit less cool, calm, collected than gets made out. I think there's about a 2.5 second internal clock that he's got, and then things can get a little bit hairy for him. Like, he can drop his eyes and look at the pass rush. That was something that I saw in college that I didn't like. Even in the preseason game, feet got pretty choppy, like some extra hitches and just nervous body language I thought I saw from him. I worry that if there's still weak points on the line, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And if people aren't scared of the receivers and the deep threat, and they start really blitzing Genty specifically and just saying like, let's take him away, I think they can take him away. And then you might just be able to run through Mendoza kind of on your way there. Now maybe it's Kirk Cousins, but Kirk Cousins is washed. That's the problem with Kirk Cousins. He's washed.
How long is that going to last? 3 weeks?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there were points in Atlanta where they like couldn't run their play action because he can't turn and run like that. He needs to get the
so stiff.
Yeah, he's stiff. He's old. He's off major lower body injuries in Minnesota before they let him go, and I don't think he's quite recovered because he's old. So that's my problem is like, are they just going to blitz Genty, and do they have the quarterback and receivers to really punish that? And then can they protect the middle of the field on their own defense? I mean, Quay Walker sucked at that for years in Green Bay, like play action and those dig patterns. Just when I don't see they gave Isaiah McDuffie a contract extension. He's one of our linebackers in Green Bay. Him and Quay Walker, some of the worst to ever do it in terms of middle of the field pass defense. Now it's them and Nakobe. It's him and Nakobe D, and I worry about that. I worry about the corners. I worry about every defender basically not named Max Crosby. So here they are down at number 14.
And then the thing with Crosby is, like, is he going to be fully healthy? I think that's a fair question to ask. I mean, he's been reasonably healthy, but has been banged up the last 2 years. They tried to get rid of him. And they tried to get rid of him, of course, emotionally. Can he recover from that? Can he perform knowing that he was not wanted in the building? That is a pretty crazy saga. So I think the Raiders are now entering into a tier of teams that have a chance to be decent, will probably still be bad. Who do you have in your 12 spot, Theo?
I'll go Pittsburgh.
Oh, God.
Oh, what an idiot. What an idiot. Get a load of this fucking guy. Oh, Theo, you're such a brilliant, intelligent mind, and yet you, like so many others, are doubting the Steelers going into the season. Go ahead. Let me hear why they're going to win less than 7 games, and we're going to win 10 again and get bounced in the first round. Enlighten me, please.
Just like
Theo Ash owned. Theo Ash owned on
I do this dance every offseason, man.
They're getting older and older every offseason. I don't know.
Logan's Super Bowl is telling people who pick the Steelers to be below average.
I'm never wrong on them. I'm going to be right
above
again.
Average. You do bat 1,000 on it. You are up to this point batting 1,000 on it. I will give you that. But Theo, why do you have them down at 12?
I mean, I just feel like they have Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback, and Aaron Rodgers is like really horrific under pressure. He's coming off maybe the worst playoff game of the entire 2020s, I think, in terms of total EPA accumulated.
Drake May played.
He wasn't as bad as Rodgers in that game.
CJ Stroud
had 3 passing touchdowns against Houston. Thank you.
Kerry Collins threw 5 picks in a Super Bowl. I don't know, man.
I said since 2020.
I do think that Rodgers' game versus Houston was one of the lowest rated ever in terms of EPA, which
it was.
Does
it
make
was.
sense.
That's
one of the
just
worst offensive games in NFL history.
And it's because if there's pressure, he just turtles, right? Like he's gonna dirt the ball. He's gonna get small. He's gonna take a sack, and then he's gonna spike it and get up all huffy. And it's really a pretty terrible offense. And the reason that Pittsburgh was average last year, well, it's because Joe Burrow got hurt, and it's because Lamar Jackson got hurt, and it's because both tackles in LA got hurt, and Patrick Mahomes got hurt, and Daniel Jones got hurt. And that's why they were good. It wasn't because Pittsburgh blew anybody out, like blew anybody away. But they just ended up kind of by happenstance, one of the healthiest teams standing, and just kind of chugged along, and maybe they'll just chug along again. But what if they're the team that deals with injuries or something like that? Like, this team's ceiling is very low, is it not?
No, that's what I don't disagree with people about. The Steelers can't win a playoff game. I will tell you that. We're going to lose in the first round of the playoffs again because of
that's
what you said about...
That's bottom 5 material if you say, like, this team cannot win a playoff game. That's bottom 6 material.
They're going to either be in the playoffs or in the 7 to 9 range. That is the range of outcomes for the Steelers. Like, that's just what I take issue with. We're going to run into one of the Chargers, the Texans, or the Ravens, or anybody with a good edge rusher or good edge rushing duo is going to eat us alive. I'm not writing that away. Rodgers can't move. Like, I think that whatever happens, whoever the Steelers play, we're probably going to lose in the first round. The thing that I take
issue with... If a team has 2 good edges, if a team has 2 fast receivers, like, where it's over.
There's some Achilles heels. It's a team with multiple Achilles heels.
The Steelers are so much more talented than last year, and that's what I think people are missing. I think there are 2 X factors and variables to look out with for the Steelers this year. They're going to ultimately determine if they can win a playoff game or not. Those are the offensive line, which has been an issue. They have been trying to rebuild it for a few years now, and I'm still not fully bought in. I don't know what we're going to get. At right tackle, we're starting undrafted rookie Dylan Cook, who was really nice because Maxi Iheanacho is probably going to be injured for the first 2 weeks of the season, or at least into the beginning of the season. I expect Iheanacho at some point during the season to take over. The guy is a stud. I thought he was the best tackle in the draft. I cannot believe the Steelers got him. He rocks.
Yep. The offensive line, yep.
Left tackle, Broderick Jones has sucked since the day he entered the NFL, and unfortunately had his best season last year, suffered a neck injury. Now at left tackle, we are moving former right tackle, who was also injured his rookie year, Troy Fatanu, now to the left side. So I don't know what to make exactly of the tackle situation or the line in general. I think that is a big question mark about this team. The other one is the middle of the field. I fucking hate our linebackers, and I cannot believe the Steelers didn't go out and get somebody else. Peyton Wilson, I was geeked on when he entered the league. I liked him at NC State. He's just not that athletic. Like, the athletic guy that I saw on tape at NC State is just not that kind of athlete at the NFL level. And so he is serviceable. Can he be a second inside linebacker for a team? Sure. He's all right, but he's not a game changer. Patrick Queen is washed at this point, and frankly, one of the most overpaid linebackers in football. He is not good anymore. So those are the 2 things that I worry about. But the reason I think the Steelers are going to be good is because I am confident in every other position group up and down this roster. At quarterback, no, Aaron Rodgers is not what he once was, but is he close to league average? Yeah, and he's going to be accurate. He can still make the throws if he has time, and I think our running game is better. Warren and Dowell are a really good 1-2 punch. The biggest change of this team, and I cannot stress this enough, is the wideout play, the acquisition of Michael Pittman Jr. That is such a big game changer for this team. Early on in the year, Rodgers and DK Metcalf were lighting people up because people hadn't gotten hip to the Steelers' offensive limitations. Their big Achilles heel was the fact that they didn't have anybody else to throw the ball to downfield, and you could, load up on DK's side of the field, kind of X him out a little bit, and then really limit the rest of the Steelers' attack, which just buttoned up the entire offense. With Michael Pittman Jr. now, the Steelers have 2 legitimate receivers who can at least win one-on-one theoretically and are big and physical. And I just think that takes this offense up a notch, where Rodgers is not just throwing to tight ends in DK Metcalf. That was it last year. It was Kenneth Gainwell out of the backfield. It was a tight end, most likely Jonnu Smith, who was our worst tight end of 3, and we used him the most. Make that make sense.
He's still a free agent. He
sucks.
on the
He's
street
horrible.
right now, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for trading away Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Won't somebody at least give him a house?
And
Johnny Smith is homeless in Denver.
No.
And he was
Give him a roof
Aaron
over
Rodgers'
his
favorite
head.
target last year.
He's a good player.
he's trash. And then, so the Steelers, I think, are primed to get better offensively with their acquisition of Pittman Jr. And then defensively, like I said, I don't like the linebackers. The safeties were injured all last year. We are now coming in with a full bill of health for the safeties. And the cornerbacks, I think this is one of the best cornerback duos in football. Peasy Jr. and Jamel Dean. This is an elite cornerback duo. Like, I think they can go toe-to-toe with anybody. And then I think the D-line is solid. I think T.J. Watt has regressed a good bit from I think he's a top 10 guy, but I think he is much closer to that 8, 9, 10 range than he is one of the best edges in football. He is not up in that upper echelon anymore. The interior D-line is really good, though. Cam Hayward was awesome last year. When Derek Harmon was healthy and available last year, the Steelers' run defense rocked. Like, ultimately, they aren't going to win a playoff game, and you can have your big questions about the Steelers in terms of ceiling and that, but they're way more talented than last year, and they did address their biggest needs. Like, unless you're going to come at this from, like, going, Mike Tomlin, held the defense together, and, like, that's your argument, I'm not going to hear it.
He was actually their defensive coaching was actually horrifically bad.
Oh, Terrell Austin sucked. Like, Terrell Austin sucks, man. I think Mike Tomlin's been doing some of that heavy lifting for a minute. They have their flaws. They're not going to go win the Super Bowl. They're not going to go win a playoff game, but I'll be damned if they're in the bottom 5 of the AFC. That's egregious, man. It's a ridiculous take, bruh. We got to the Steelers before the Jets, man, and the Bengals. Like, come on, bruh.
The Bengals?
The Bengals are going to suck like they do every year.
Let's get there when we get there. Let's get there when we get there, Logan. I know you're on a heater right now, but we'll circle back. Where do the Steelers rank in excitement ranking in the AFC? They're probably 14th or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Where do they rank as a football team? I still have them higher than you, Theo. I do have them in the 10th spot. There's so many reasons to look at this team and say, oh, they're not very inspiring. And even compared to last year, they should regress. As you mentioned, a much healthier, we presume, stronger AFC. And this was a team that was plus 12 in the turnover differential. This was a team that was pretty good on special teams, right? They win in some of these funky ways that you don't expect to be replicated. And now that Mike Tomlin is gone, maybe they stop replicating it, but I'll be damned if I don't look at the Steelers every year and go, they're uninspiring. They're probably going to win 7 games, maybe 8. And then they do always win 9 or 10, and it means absolutely nothing. I think the teams in the 11 and 12 spots have more upside. I'm more intrigued by them, but it does feel like just with what the Steelers do year in, year out, like I'm more intrigued by the Jets. Who's probably going to win more games? The Steelers.
Also, I didn't shout out my boy Jeremy Bernard. I think Jeremy Bernard's going to be freaking sweet as our third wideout, too. So I just think we're too talented to win less than – now, I will say, Rodgers gets hurt, we're fucked. Light the season on fire. We're cooked unless Drew Aller comes through and is –
Shout out Drew Aller.
Well, you're wearing a Mason Rudolph jersey, so he'll be ready to step up. Yeah, they're so mid. I mean, the defense looks pretty good. I think it should be better than last year, but it's still not a needle-moving unit. The offense, I don't know, man. Like, I think the offensive line looks pretty solid. I totally agree with Theo when it comes to Rodgers just being completely futile against pressure, and I don't know that I'm as moved by the weapons as you are, Logan. I don't love Michael Pittman.
I mean, Michael Pittman is a 2 next to DJ.
He's definitely a big upgrade. He's a big upgrade.
We had Calvin Austin out there,
I know.
man. And Roman Wilson.
I mean, there are teams out there with Jackson Smith and Jigba as their wide receiver 1, though. There's teams out there with Justin Jefferson as their best receiver. There's a whole world out there.
What did you say? Did you say Roman Wilson is going to play a lot?
No.
Will.
Roman Wilson's never played a lot in his entire career. He doesn't exist.
He's one of these thin, man.
Jeremy. It goes DK. Dude, Roman Wilson's cheeks. He's a wasted draft pick. DK, MPJ, Jeremy.
Michael Porter Jr.?
Yeah, we just signed
What's
MPJ.
What's he got to do with this? I don't know. I think this offense is going to suck.
Yeah, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy in the big 2027 are finishing ahead of Joe Burrow. Like,
we did it every year.
Well, no, Mike McCarthy is a new factor in the equation, and I do hate that hire.
Yep.
My thing is, like, look, dude, when Carson used to go, hey, man, you're an idiot, when I would take the Steelers to go win the Super Bowl every year, I could accept it because I was delusional and I was irrational. And now that I am a rational, pessimistic Steelers fan, I'm not going to have anybody talk me back down from 10 wins to 7. Like, they're going to win 10 games.
And you're entitled to that. I also don't think it's criminal to think that at some point, some of this luck is going to run out with the Steelers.
I've been hearing this goddamn shit for 7 years.
And that's why you're entitled to stand on your hill. I just don't think Theo having them at 12 is insane. They're not.
Where do you have them?
That
like, where do you have them?
I can tell you the teams that are around them. I have them in the 9 spot. I have them above the teams we haven't got to. I have them above New York, Cincy, Indy. I have them behind Houston.
Well, now you've gone and you've spoiled your whole frickin' list, and the episode is ruined. So, in your 12 spot, Logan, then you had...
I got the New York Football Jets.
So do I. So why do they land there for you?
I'm, kind of excited about the Jets just because they have some guys that I'm a big fan of. Like, they got my boy Geno now holding it down. He's back in New York. I'm rooting for the second comeback tour. They got my man Minkah Fitzpatrick at free safety, from Miami. Like, Minkah, more than anybody else, I'm still pissed that the Steelers traded away Minkah for Jalen Ramsey, who, mind you, just to get my last Steelers shit off real quick, please. We traded Jalen Ramsey, who was supposed to be a cornerback. We moved him to safety, so it's like we swapped a safety for a safety. Minkah's better at that, at limiting big plays, and we just got Jonnu Smith as a topper, who is now, as we've already deliberated, homeless in Denver. So
yeah, this is a really sad story.
What a pointless trade. I want to give some props to Minkah real quick because Minkah got so disrespected by Steelers fans and football fans who were looking at pro football like reference numbers, I assume, or PFF grades that didn't reflect how impactful he actually was. And Minkah came off of an injury and was not as impactful when he came back from that injury. And he made some he missed some key tackles in some big games. There were some bad moments, but by and large, for the entirety of the season, the reason teams couldn't go deep on the Steelers was because Minkah was in center field taking away any deep shot. And people were like, where's Minkah? I never see him making any plays. There's a reason. It's because he's great at his job. Like, when you don't see a defensive back, sometimes that's a good thing. But anyway, we're 3 years removed from that. I still think Minkah can be good in the middle of a field for a team in that regard. And I do think the Jets are due to get a little better. You mentioned them acquiring Sweat on the defensive side. I think McDonald is primed to get a little bit better. Ultimately, though, I can't lie to you guys. The Jets were like probably the worst watch for me in the NFL last season. I couldn't do it. This team had no interceptions at all the entire regular season. That is the only time in NFL history that has ever happened, which is crazy when your head coach is a former cornerback. Doesn't make any sense. So the Jets are working from like being one of the worst teams I've ever seen. I think a lot of that had to do with the QB room and getting banged up and injured. I think Geno will be an improvement, and some of these improvements that they've made in terms of rookies, developing young players will make them a little bit better, but I don't even see that's why I think having the Steelers, but the Steelers to me have a chance to make the playoffs at the end of the day. I don't look at the Jets as having playoff potential. They're not on my radar. They're 8 wins max to me is where I would put New York at.
I think the AFC is pretty tough, so I think it's a real long shot that they would make the playoffs. But is there no world? I can't say that. Now, I'm trying to be rational about the Jets because they did add Geno Smith, and I am a big believer in Geno. And last year, I think I got too high on a Geno-led team that was a deeply incompetent organization because I thought the Raiders were going to be decent, and the Raiders ended up being an absolute shit show. I think the Jets on paper, though, have decent talent, and I think they made some meaningful improvements this offseason. I look at this offensive core, and I'm like, Geno in a much better situation with Garrett Wilson and Omar Cooper coming in and Breece Hall and a decent O-line with Membu and Fashanu. There's talent there. And then the defense, pretty overhauled, really bad last year, but you bring in David Bailey and you add DeMario Davis, who is still quite good, and bring in D'Angelo Pons and Minkah. They made a lot of improvements. It probably is going to come down to how respectable the offense is, but I kind of think the offense is going to be decent. Clearly, Geno had some back-breakingly bad turnovers last year. It was like he was seeing ghosts at times. He just completely walked the wrong side of the line between the aggression that I like from him and just outright recklessness and making mistakes that are going to lose you football games. But then again, it's shit, no wonder that he's seeing ghosts. He's playing in football hell. So if the Jets offensive line, those tackles being very talented, if they prove to be a pretty solid unit, there's a couple playmakers around him, and I do think we could see a bit of a Geno resurgence. They wrote him off. He didn't write back. Then I guess last year he proved them all right, and now he's going to prove them all wrong again. So I do have the Jets at number 12. I don't want to be too bullish on them. I do think they're going to get beat up on by the top two teams in the division, but they also get to play the Dolphins twice, and there's an infrastructure here that I can buy into being competent.
Yeah, the Jets just signed all my favorite veterans, really, is what it comes down to. I got that one spot ahead of the Steelers. And getting Demario Davis and Minkah Fitzpatrick is like kind of the football equivalent of signing like Chris Paul when he's old. Like just guys who do everything right. Like Minkah, like you were saying, Logan, really underappreciated, I think, these days. Pittsburgh, when they traded him, I made a video and I talked about his tackling, and I said something like, he's a master of stiff arm deconstruction. Like he is so good at breaking that arm down. And
they will have, and he will still.
He'll still get it. And then everybody sent me this screenshot of Derrick Henry stiff arming him on a big run, and I go back and I check the tape of that big run. Derrick Henry stiff arms him to the ground. Minkah, as he's falling, reaches and clips his ankle and takes Derrick Henry down as he's falling. He didn't. The screenshot looks bad.
Go to the source. Free thinker.
But he got it down. He did it, and did he do it with his hand or with his foot? He like tripped it. He like moved his foot a little bit and tripped him. But he found a way. And when I was doing my top 5 safety list for TikTok, I didn't quite have him on there, but I think he's still easily in the top 10 with how quick he processes things, his success rate in the open field, his ability to play the nickel or the high safety. He's really strong, and Demario Davis is still a baller as well. Like that's a really big loss for the Saints. Like this guy who can really flow downhill, evade contact, and then snap back in and make the tackle kind of on the edge of his frame. It's like those two guys combined are just command so much respect, I feel like, from football heads, that I'm like, look, you get those two guys, you're like just importing such a soul to the defense and just something that you didn't have last year. I'm a big fan of Jamie and Sherwood, the linebacker next to Demario Davis. I think he's very athletic and a good run defender with some range in the pass game. A.Z. Thomas, their corner, who's I think a third-round rookie, was a draft crush of mine, and I thought came in and had some nice moments. Glenn, the reason they didn't have interceptions is because Glenn calls a lot of man coverage, so they just didn't have eyes on the ball, I feel like. And then they had no pass rush really either, and it just was not a good combination. But I think with blitzing, and if he can, his calling card should be that he can develop man cover corners. So if he can continue to develop some of these young guys and blitz a little bit more, add David Bailey to the whole thing. They were a good run defense last year, and now they've got Sweat. Can Aaron Glenn kind of get some of his swagger back and some of his mojo back with this Jets defense? And then Geno's one thing, but like I would sell it more on offense. Like, look at Garrett Wilson, look at Breece Hall. Like those guys are good skill position players. Omar Cooper's a beast with the ball in his hands. Like you said, Carson, I think you put it well. Like he was in football hell last year. A bounce back would be him playing like a low-end starter instead of someone who deserves to be benched. And honestly, the Jets could do well with a low-end starter play, someone who's a little bit more aggressive, somebody more interested in hanging in there and getting through reads. Last season, Geno was way too interested in hanging in there and getting through reads, and just it ended with him holding the ball way too long behind a bad offensive line and getting forced into horrific pressure decisions. It was awful, no doubt. But does it have to go down that exact same way again? I don't know. I think they're on the bottom of the AFC pyramid. They could easily get eaten by about any team that they play. But I also think that the Jets have I'm a buyer of like scrappy Jets. I think they're scrappier than the Dolphins and the Clevelands of the world.
Definitely. I think they're in a different tier. I also think like this defense could be really improved. I mean, they were very bad last year, but like all of the solidifying talents who we talk about, then also just like a little bit more big play potential. Like, can you go from turning teams over less than anybody to turning teams over a bit? Does that pass rush improve a bit, bringing in Bailey and maybe another year of progress from like a McDonald? Like, I think they can make a lot of little improvements that amount to a pretty significant difference. So I don't know. I'm almost talking myself into putting them higher, but then again, the AFC is pretty good, and I still don't know that they have the talent to stack up with some of these other teams.
you can't put them in a tier above this. Like my big, oh, look what I did thing is like putting them ahead of the Steelers.
Yeah, that's fair.
My final piece on the genius that is Minka. One, I really wanted him to be a Steeler for life. Like I thought he had earned that kind of like status in there, like as a fan. Like that's how I viewed Minka. And I remember, I'll never forget one of his last moments. He was injured this season. He was on the sideline with Terrell Austin, known bad defensive coordinator, for the last play of a game. Whatever call comes in on the headset, Minka sprints to the DC, demands the coaching staff calls a timeout. Minka calls his own defensive play for the team on the last play of the game. Steelers get an interception with Minka off the field.
Yeah.
Like Minka's a football genius, man.
McCarthy will be the shortest tenured head coach in Steelers history because the moment Minka Fitzpatrick or Cam Hayward retire, they're getting promoted to head coach of the Steelers so goddamn fast, it will make your head spin.
That would be awesome, bro.
It'd be a beautiful thing. All right, so we are caught up through everyone's 12 spot, I believe. So, Theo, I throw it back to you. Oh, no, you had the Jets at 11.
I have the Jets at 11.
So, Logan, who's in your 11 spot?
So this is where I have the Cincinnati Bengals, and I say these two words a lot in football preview content, and I'm going to say it once more. When a season ends, when we begin a new one, the first two things I'm looking for are variable change. What changed in Cincinnati? Nothing. They had the easiest layup of all time. Fire that bum Zach Taylor. Get a actual decent coach in here. They didn't do it. And so I look at them and I go, all right, they got Joe Burrow. Woo! They got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Woo!
What about Dexter Lawrence? I feel like that's kind of a piece that you're glazing over here.
No, nothing changed. Nothing changed.
I mean, cool, dude. Dexter Lawrence
they did
is going
lose
to come
Trey
in there.
Hendrickson, so
He's
a couple
one
big
guy.
things changed,
It's like
but
they
is it a
also
net
lost Trey
positive?
Hendrickson.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the fundamental problem with the Bengals is that they are the Bengals. They can't get their head out of their ass, man. Fire the coach, trade one of the wide receivers, put some money in the O-line and defense. Don't let Joe Burrow die. Worship the ground that he walks on. Build a statue of him. Make sure that he wants to stay in Cincinnati. You didn't do any of that. He's going to get hurt again. The defense is going to be bottom of the league again. He's going to want out. Bengals will win 8 games. Nothing changed in Cincinnati. So, like, why should I expect anything to be different about this year? That's where I come back to with the Bengals.
Logan and I have been very big on shorting the Bengals for the last 3 years. I believe we've both picked them to miss the playoffs in each of those seasons, and correctly. And there is always some buzz that builds for them in the offseason because they have Joe Burrow and because they made a Super Bowl in 2021 and an AFC Championship game in 2022, and feels like people are often expecting a bounce back. I really feel like that's happening this year, though. And I think the schedule is a component in that, the schedule being so light. But a lot of people are picking the Bengals to have a big year. And I'm not as low on them as Logan, but also, like, yes, the schedule makes it pretty easy for them to pick up 8-9 wins. But I don't think this football team is that improved. And the biggest reason that I have just been low on the Bengals for these last few years is because they consistently have some of the worst defenses in football. And I don't think that's really going to change this year. So, Theo, are you more bullish? Are you higher on the Bengals? Can you provide a little bit of optimism here up against this wall of pessimism?
I don't know if I think the Bengals are destined to be worse than the Steelers for the rest of history because the Bengals win 9 games. Well, the Steelers win 10 games the last 3 years.
Means a lot to Logan.
But I don't know if I am skeptical of Dexter Lawrence coming in and like changing everybody's lives. That's for sure. I mean, the Packers got Micah Parsons, and it didn't change their life too much, and he was great. I got no notes on his play, but man, if your linebackers are still ass, it really can erase a lot of progress that gets made. And they, like you said, they're missing a lot of their top guys from last year, like Trey Hendrickson, who was their perennial pressure leader. Osai was also near the top of the team in pressures last year. He's gone. They got Boye Mafe. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, they got Boye Mafe, without saying like, oh, they lost anybody. So I'm with you on like, look, just because Dexter Lawrence is in town now and he's really good, he can like still pass rush more than just about any nose tackle can, even through all these doubles and all that. But his get off time, like off the line of scrimmage, has gone down. His pressure rates have gone down in the years since Leonard Williams was traded. And the Giants were supposed to be, a elite defensive line last year with 2 elite edge rushers, and he had half of a sack. So if they can kind of focus in on him and try to take him away, is he still the type of player that can just completely like dominate you like he was a couple of years ago? He can be a top 10 defensive tackle still, but if he's like the 6th best or the 7th best or something like that, it's probably not worth the 10th overall pick. And it even like expanding it even outwards, like if Burrow's body language is bad and there's whispers of like trades and whatnot, and if you get him this help and it's not the right move to make, man, I worry about what that could mean going forward. But that's really dooming. Now I'm dooming.
No, that ship is sailed, Theo. It's inevitable, man. It's inevitable at this point.
What the Bengals do have is Jamar Chase, and what they do have is T. Higgins, and I do think that I prefer that duo even to the Cowboys. I think it's the best wide receiver duo in football. I think Chase is unbelievably special, like maybe GOAT yak artist ever, and then T is almost GOAT contested catch artist. And Burrow is extremely elite, placing balls like outside of the numbers, and it's just free for the Bengals, like to get a first down seemingly whenever they want, is to just have one of these guys up the sideline running an outbreaker or a go, and it just gets completed at such a high rate, and their offense gets so explosive that way. They're trying to add wrinkles this year, and they've never really had wrinkles with Zach Taylor before. I think their season will kind of be determined by how much they can kind of lean off of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, honestly, and fold in, a power run game and play action, because it's not like it used to be in Cincinnati where they used to throw, like when Chase was a rookie, they used to throw it to him up the sideline. And that was the best play in all of football, like just him up the sideline. And then that almost started this like too high revolution that you see now, where because that play was so good, and now it's a much less explosive version of the Bengals offense, I feel like, a couple years ago, and they need to kind of get in that play action world more than they're comfortable with to kind of bring those big explosive plays back instead of like quick hitting out routes, I'd say, which is now still their bread and butter. But can you kind of attack down the field a little bit more using play action? That to me is what remains to be seen. And it will determine if their ceiling is like wild card team with a questionable defense and a very good offense, or I think like offense that's so good that the defense just needs to be okay
and
for them to win the Super Bowl. And the defense can just be okay. It's possible.
I will say, I do think Cincinnati will ultimately end up below the Steelers in the standings, because it's how it always goes, but since he does have a higher ceiling than Pittsburgh for that reason exactly. That is the reason that Cincinnati, if they get in to the dance, could win a playoff game versus the Steelers, who have zero chance of winning a playoff game. So I do think that their ceiling is different.
I just think like the defense was legitimately horrific last year. I mean, they were awful across the board. They were terrible against the run. They were terrible against the pass. And I just don't think that adding Dexter Lawrence but subtracting Trey Hendrickson to replace him with Boye Mafe, like I don't think that's that much of a net positive. And then I think the offense is going to be very good, presuming that Burrow is healthy. Unfortunately, that hasn't been a safe presumption. He's missed significant chunks of 2 of the last 3 years. And like the Bengals have never had a top-tier NFL offense. They have never been the Bills at their best, the Chiefs at their best, the Ravens at their best. They've still never had a top 5 offense in the NFL, and I think a big reason for that is the lack of balance and the lack of wrinkles that you're talking about them maybe adding this year, Theo. And like, Chase Brown is a pretty good playmaker, but I'm still not that inspired by the run game. I think the offensive line is decent. It's still not good. I still don't like Zach Taylor. Like, I just think the Burrow and Jamar and T, with everything else being bad formula, has shown you what it is. It leads to mediocre football teams. And so maybe a mediocre football team wins 10 games this year because they play like one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. But I don't know. I'm just not that high on the Bengals. I still have them 9th in the AFC. I just think that defense really concerns me. And again, even the offense, like considering the Burrow health question, considering the run game offensive line questions, it's not like surefire elite. So I'm not high on them.
I got them 10th, so that kind of continues my list.
There you go. So actually, we all have them in a very similar range. It seems none of us are that high on the Bengals. So you had them 10th. I had the Steelers 10th, but I had the Indianapolis Colts in my 11th spot. This is an interesting team. Obviously got off to an awesome start last year before just getting ravaged by injuries and Daniel Jones going down for the year. I believe they finished the year as the best team ever in terms of DVOA to have a losing record. And so given all that, you might think this team is stronger than the number 11. I guess I just have some concerns. Like, I look at the receiver room and there is some talent. You lose Michael Pittman. I'm a little bit worried about this Alec Pierce injury situation. Like, it's a solid group of weapons. I do think the offensive line is still pretty good. I don't know that Daniel Jones is going to replicate what he did last year. Like, I thought it was really impressive how he started the year. He looked like a new man in terms of the poise and the decision making, and it was like his athletic traits were popping in all the right ways. But I do think we saw some of the inconsistencies start to pop up with him before he tore his Achilles. And then he tore his Achilles. So, like, I just don't know what to expect out of him. And then I look at this defense, and I do think it's a below-average unit. I think there's a lot of hoping and praying that Sauce Gardner is going to solve a lot for this team. But I don't know. I don't think the Colts are that good. I think they're a solid football team, but I do think we saw a lot of the pitfalls with this team last year down the stretch. And yes, injuries were a part of that, but I think some of them are just roster issues as well.
They are very interesting to me. They have an MVP candidate in Jonathan Taylor, I feel like, one of the best players in the league. And their defense has 2 great defensive tackles in Stewart and DeForest Buckner. I think Sauce is still someone that I'm keeping a big eye on. I think Sauce is still pretty elite. I think Sauce is still very elite and one of the premier island corners in the entire NFL. When he showed up, they started playing a lot more man. And like the Falcons game, I thought he did an absolutely phenomenal job, like covering everybody, including Drake London. I think there's just a lot. It's hard to run through. It's like running through mud, Sauce Gardner's man coverage. He's just so long. He's got underrated ability to open his hips and close space. I think he avoids DPIs and all that. And if they can kind of play man with him at the forefront like they were doing at the end of last year, Daniel Jones stays healthy. Like, it's the idea that they kind of pick up where they left off before things started to go off the rails and they started Phillip Rivers and lost their last 8 games or whatever it was. Like, it intrigues me with Indy. I think all the pieces are there to be, I don't know, like the Seahawks. Like, the Seahawks had no fans before they picked up and won the Super Bowl, right? Like, they just did not have those kinds of results. They were like this perennial in the hunt wild card team, but man, they had an offensive player of the year candidate, and they had great corners and great defensive tackles, and like they were just kind of able to finagle something together. And I wonder if the Colts are kind of this year's version of that team that always is kind of in the hunt, but actually has the pieces to be dominant. And we saw some of that dominance last year. But I don't disagree with what you're saying. There's like no linebackers here that are proven. Daniel Jones is coming off an Achilles and was probably due for some regression anyway. Like right tackle, Braden Smith is left, and it's total unknowns to replace him. Is this a passing attack that's going to be anywhere close to 30 points a game like it was last year? Like,
right.
I could easily see the answer to that being like, no, probably not. Pittman being gone, all that, yeah.
Yeah, I think the Colts are probably one of the most difficult teams to predict in the NFL this season. The reasons for optimism, though, I mean, I love Shane Steichen. I think Shane Steichen is brilliant. I think he obviously showed you that he can get the most out of a quarterback like Daniel Jones. He is paired with a guy like Jonathan Taylor. And that's why I have them above Cincinnati, is I just think there's a higher ceiling with Indianapolis, and I can just see them so easily be, like you're saying, the Seahawks is a little far, but I get what you're saying, like the sleeper team that kind of surprises everybody. Mm-hmm. If I had to pick someone out of the AFC, it would probably be them. And I don't really have a ton to add. The only thing I would add is I think the X factor for the Colts this year is going to be Latu on the defensive line, where I think he is just a playmaker. And you already mentioned some of the other guys on the D-line, Theo. I think that with the two big boys up front slowing down the run, if Latu can be like a double-digit sack kind of game-changing pass rusher, even with the questions about the linebacking group, that makes a meaningful difference to me in terms of their outlook for this upcoming season. So he would be my X factor. But I don't know. 10 just feels right because there's so much unknown. Like, is Daniel Jones going to, like you guys said, is Daniel Jones going to perform like he did? The wideout group, there just are some questions. But there's no doubt in my mind that the Colts have the talent in-house to be a really good football team this year and a playoff team.
They could be a sleeping giant. They were a sleeping giant last year. Like, they came out of the gates, and that offense was a juggernaut, and there are some standout talents on this defense. There's definitely some holes on this defense. Like, they do definitely have the potential to be a playoff team. I guess I just have some concerns about the offense looking close to what it was last year, and that's probably why I wind up a little bit lower on them. But we all have them in a similar range.
Creatine is one of the most researched and effective supplements available, but as the category has exploded, most brands have focused on flavors, formats, and marketing instead of actually making the creatine itself better. That's why we partnered with Momentous, where you can always know and trust that the ingredients in their supplements are quality tested, especially with their new Signature Spec Creatine.
The Signature Spec Creatine is the most advanced creatine ever, and it's setting a new standard for creatine quality. It delivers 10 times fewer impurities, microplastic screening, 2 to 5 times tighter heavy metal limits, and the product experience has been improved with an ultra-fine powder that mixes effortlessly. Also, the benefits of creatine are real. It supports strength, power, lean muscle growth, recovery, and even improved cognitive performance. I take creatine every day because I want to be huge and massive. And if you're going to take creatine every day, you might as well make sure it's the best and choose Momentous Signature Spec Creatine. That's what I've done. I feel better about what I'm taking every day, and that's why we've partnered with Momentous.
If you want to try Momentous Signature Spec Creatine, head to livemomentous.com and use code NERDSESH for up to 35% off your entire first order. That's livemomentous.com, promo code NERDSESH for up to 35% off. That's livemomentous.com, promo code NERDSESH.
This episode is brought to you by ZocDoc. I don't know about you guys, but I am the absolute worst when it comes to procrastinating going to the doctor. I will put it off as long as I can because I don't want to deal with the phone tag. I don't want to deal with the anxiety of having to describe my symptoms to somebody on the phone, and so I'll just put it off forever. Meanwhile, whatever issue I have is only getting worse, and then when I finally do have the balls to make the call, it turns out there isn't an appointment for way too long. I don't want you guys to go through that, and that's why we've partnered with ZocDoc.
ZocDoc has more than 150,000 providers within 200 plus specialties across all 50 states, and ZocDoc lets you search and compare local in-network doctors. My favorite part about it, it is free to use, and appointments happen really fast, usually within 24 to 72 hours, and you can even score same-day appointments.
Your health matters, and taking care of yourself shouldn't be complicated. Find and book the right doctor with ZocDoc. Head to ZocDoc.com/nerdsesh to get started and check that appointment off your to-do list. That's ZocDoc.com/nerdsesh. So I had the Steelers at 10, the Bengals at 9. Theo, what number are we up to with you now?
I got the Bengals at 10.
Okay.
I'm going to have Denver at 9.
Oh my goodness. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Well, you know they went 11-1 in one-score games last year, right?
No,
That's like the number one red flag of a team not being as good as their record is. And they were the 1 seed last year, but you're scraping by versus the skin of your teeth versus like New York and the Jets and games like that. I mean, would a truly dominant team kind of blow those teams out on their way to be the 1 seed? I'm just not sold on this team being regression proof. That's my problem with them. On offense, Nick's still has yet to prove himself to me as like elite quarterback or someone that they're winning because of. To me, he's been kept on a leash a little bit or just not really somebody who operates a fully fleshed out passing attack, despite having probably the best pass protection in all of football, which like, what if something goes wrong? What if Quinn Miners misses some time? What if Bowles misses some time? What if what if the pocket starts to compress a little bit on him? Like, then what is it going to look like? Because even the way it is right now, it's pretty much nothing to the intermediate middle of the field. It's like pretty much no layering passes. And it's a lot of like exaggerated movements in the pocket with him where he kind of burns through his space and kind of loses his footwork. And then in the backfield, it's like J.K. Dobbins who always gets hurt. So both the pass and the run game last season were like very average. They were extremely average. And I just think that there's real potential here for those things to be extremely average again. Waddle is a good addition, and I like him when he's healthy. I think he's got the potential to be a 1,400-yard guy. But what's made him so efficient is playing in this system where he runs digs and he is cutting and it at a landmark on the hash right when Tua throws it. That's like the opposite of Bo Nix's style, where it's just a lot of swings and screens and go balls. Plus, Waddle's always kind of banged up and is already kind of limping around in training camp. So is he going to be a scheme fit? Is he going to fit in with Bo Nix? These are the things that I've just gotten more nervous about as the season goes on. And then on defense, like, they're going to have to continue to be dominant, and they have been. But Jim Leonard has gone to Buffalo. I think they lost Jonathan Franklin Myers, which was a huge part of their pass rush. And now I look at their run defense with like Singleton and Stranad and Nick Bonito and Zach Allen and Jonathan Cooper. I think it's more of a pass rush centered unit. I think you can maybe run on them a little bit better this year. And I don't know. I just don't think they have a lot of wiggle room. They didn't sign hardly any free agents. It was all like these little in-house signings like J.K. Dobbins. They didn't bring in a single new tight end, really a single new linebacker. They didn't have a first-round pick. I guess Waddle. They brought in Waddle. That's their big move. But, man, a lot is riding on that. They didn't fill out the roster in a very big way while also having this huge close game like regression red flag. I just don't think it's any guarantee that Denver is this like super team. I've got them in the AFC's middle class in a really tough division.
Wow. I think I appreciate the zag here because I do think what you said about a lot of people thinking that the Broncos are regression proof, that to me is not logical. I do think this is a team that absolutely could regress, even though they are stacked on paper. I just think you're predicting a big fall off. Now, the NFL is a very volatile league, and I think there are two teams in that division alongside them that are very much trending up, could be real powers in the AFC again this year. But it is tough for me to overlook how completely dominant this defense was, and losing John Franklin Myers, like, does matter. Maybe it does make them more susceptible to the run game. That was already like their vulnerability if there was one. And I know that sounds crazy about a team that was like top 3 against the run and all these different metrics, but like when you're thinking about the game plan as like a Bills fan, right, thinking about going to that playoff game, like you want to get big, you want to get heavy, you want multiple tight ends on the field, and you want to try to run the ball down their throat. And I do think that is a better approach against this defense than trying to throw on that ridiculous secondary and having to fend off that ridiculous pass rush. But then it is like they do have a ridiculous pass rush and a ridiculous secondary and good linebackers, and the run defense was quite good last year, and I just think they retained so much of that. What I'm with you on in terms of the concerns is the offense. I'm not sold on the offense. I think it was a mediocre offense the entire year. It was a mediocre rushing attack. It was a mediocre passing attack, and they ended the year 18th in yards per drive and 19th in points per drive. And that's a big reason why I was lower than everybody, it would seem, on Denver. I just don't like that formula when it comes to making a deep playoff run, winning the Super Bowl. Obviously, they got to the AFC title game. I think with how the Patriots looked, like they probably do win that game if Bo Nix is on the field. That's a theoretical, obviously, but they beat the Bills. It was a very weird game, but they beat the Bills, and so they deservedly made the AFC title game. Like, I can see them taking a step back. I also don't want to downplay the Waddle addition, though. Like, I don't think that this is an offense that's going to maximize him, but, like, he is a really elite playmaking talent. And, like, I mean, you just go position group to position group, and it's like they are absurdly stacked defensively across the board. They have the best offensive line in football. Now, they have added an elite weapon. Like, they do have playmakers here. They're really well coached, even though I don't really trust Bo Nix, and I don't view this as, like, a very good offense. And maybe that means I don't trust them as much as other top-tier contenders in the AFC. I think those are more so the conversations they belong in than, like, the middle class of the conference.
Yeah, I agree that I think they would have beat the Patriots as well if Nix was healthy the way the Patriots look. But I think that does a lot to kind of boost their narrative going into this season of like, well, this team should have been in the Super Bowl last year. And, well, yeah, they should have beat the Patriots. But again, the AFC was decimated by injury last season. Like, what if it's a world where Patrick Mahomes is healthy all the way through or something like that?
And they were +5 in the turnover margin against the Bills and won that game in overtime under crazy
What if Josh Allen doesn't lose his mind before halftime? And what if that ball hits the ground instead of landing in the arms of McMillan? I mean, then they're one and done with an 11, like this ridiculous close score luck. They're everybody's favorite regression candidate if like something bounces the other way. But they get the bounce, and then next week they don't get the bounce, and people say, well, what if they get the bounce next? Like, what if Bo Nix is healthy? But it could, their reputation could be very different. But reputation doesn't really matter. And on defense, I just think they're not quite stacked everywhere. Like linebacker.
They're not stacked at linebacker, but are they not still plus at linebacker with the ridiculous secondary and a ridiculous pass rush?
Riley Moss is pretty easy to pick on. Like, I think
but think about
they get nothing out of their tight ends last season. And then quarterback. Are they stacked at quarterback? The most important position in maybe all of sports. So I don't know. I again, it's a zag for sure. I've got tiers, and I've put the Denver kind of in the lower end of the tier, and it's going to be close. But I ended up going through the AFC West and being like, I think I like the Chargers with their tackles more. I mean, they beat the Broncos when they had Herbert, and I think I like Kansas City more, and we'll get into that.
Oh, you're
I don't think either of those are unreasonable at all. I just think those are two elite teams, and I don't know. There are some other teams that I also have like regression concerns about who I don't think are as talented as the Broncos. So I land with the Broncos in my 5 spot. I still think that's lower than most. I think a lot of people are looking at this team as maybe the favorite in the AFC because they have so much talent. Logan, where do you come down on them?
Yeah, I have them in my 6th spot. I just couldn't really believe that we were talking about them so soon in the episode. I don't necessarily disagree with any of the like big picture things that you're talking about that could swing back negatively for Denver. Like, what's the hardest thing to replicate year over year in the NFL? An elite defense. That's why it's like, you know, being the third best defense in football every year. It's not an easy thing to do. It's a lot more difficult than replicating an elite offense, right?
Yep.
And then the one score, games, that's a great point to make, just because football is such a random sport in terms, just like the ripple effects and the butterfly effect, like you're saying, the ball goes one way and a lot of those games, and maybe you go 500 in them. The biggest X factor and question mark to me beyond this all, and I know some Broncos fans are not going to like this, but it is Bo Nix, and I want to be clear about something. It has nothing to do with the tape that Bo Nix has now put on the table. I think Bo Nix is a good starting quarterback in the NFL. I was really skeptical of Bo when he entered the league. I think he is a good starter. I'm worried about him just because of the ankle injury. I think Bo Nix's best trait, his best quality, is his mobility, his ability to get outside of the pocket, to make throws on the move, to create with his legs and play off of his ability to, create out of structure. He's not a great in structure quarterback, like, the little screens and stuff. Yeah, but like, it's his ability to do stuff and be a dynamic kind of playmaker there when they need him to be. And the ankle injury is a big deal to me. Like, if Bo Nix isn't a mobile quarterback, there's not really a ton that I like that Bo does within the pocket or within structure. And so that is probably even more so than the defense keeping it up, even more so than the one-score regression potential. It's Bo, and that is what I am nervous about. That being said, I am definitely closer to where Carson is, where I just look at this team and I go, wow. They had some big losses in the offseason. Franklin Myers, they lose P.J. Locke, too. Like, there's some big dogs that are leaving Denver this offseason. That being said, I still look at Denver as one of the most talented rosters in the AFC, even with my concerns. So I have them at 6, and they are number 2 for me in the AFC West.
I have them right next to the Colts. I look at the Colts and I see there's some big ticket players here, like Quentin Nelson, Jonathan Taylor, Sauce Gardner. Those are some of the best players in the entire sport. I look at the Broncos. I say that as well. Like, holy cow, Patrick Surtain, like Nick Bonito, Quinn Miners. These are some of the best players in the entire sport. And I wonder what would have happened to both of them if their quarterbacks didn't get hurt to end the year. Like, it was kind of derailed. But I also question, just what those quarterbacks can keep up over a long period of time. And then just, how consistent of an offense can they be, and can they maintain for the Broncos, can they maintain elite defensive play while not really adding any free agents on that side of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a very valid point that you guys are both bringing up about can they replicate this defense, because it is easier said than done. And even last year, this was a defense that did not remain quite as dominant as the year went along, right? They came out the gates and it was like, oh my God, this defense is out of this world. And they were awesome throughout the year. But then it's like, all right, they did let up a lot of points and yards to the Commanders and to the Packers and to the Jags and even to the Bills in that game. Again, they made some big plays defensively. They also let up 450 yards and 30-plus first downs. So they weren't bulletproof. By the end of the year, I don't think they were at that Texans-Seahawks level. And if you don't get better, well, you do tend to get worse in the NFL. And I'm just talking about the defense with the Broncos here. So, I see it all. And listen, I don't think anybody was louder about the Broncos scraping by against mediocre to shitty teams throughout last year. But then they did pick up some good wins at the end of the year. They did beat my Bills. And so I'm sure Broncos fans have had more than enough of me doubting them. And fair enough. I don't think I'm really doubting them this year. I'm not the highest on them. But direct all your rage at Theo, please.
Yeah. Well, they beat my Packers.
Spot.
They beat my Packers,
True.
and I've been low on them, and they proved me wrong 2 years in a row. So, I'm probably
we're
just
back
fucking
this
salty.
year, baby.
I'm
we're
probably just
fading
very
the Broncos.
salty.
Yeah, well, they're a good team. Okay, so Theo, you had the Colts at 10. No, you had the Colts at 8.
I had the Broncos at 9 and the Colts at 8.
Okay,
see how that goes.
So Logan, who is in your 8 spot?
This is where I have the Houston Texans.
Okay, I'm right there
that's
with
a little
you.
low for me. Yeah.
I just don't look at the Texans as that drastically different of a football team, even with the little changes that they've made. I think the Texans are very straightforward, and maybe it's short-sighted of me, but like I just think it's kind of the same team as last year. Like they've made some minor improvements, but like, you know, they bring in Braden Smith. They've got David Montgomery in the fold now, but it's like I still don't love this offensive line. I still think that was the biggest, you know, red flag problem with this football team, and they were an elite defense. I do believe in the defense. I believe in the defense sustaining you know, their level more than I believe in Denver, right? Like, I love D'Amico. I think D'Amico is one of those game-changing kind of DCs. I still think they have an elite edge-rushing duo in Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. Maybe the best in football, man. Like, that is fucking terrifying.
Easily the best in football.
Yeah.
I think I'd crap my pants if I was back there, man. Like, I don't know what quarterback.
Imagine how Aaron Rodgers feels.
He probably did, you know?
Well, he's
I
also
wouldn't
off
want to play
several
against that
perks,
team.
so I don't think he has great bowel control in that state.
But I don't know. Like, I'm looking at the numbers from last year. How the hell did the Texans get to being an above-average offense in terms of scoring? Like, it didn't feel that way at all last year.
They were 21st in points per drive, and they were 27th in yards per drive.
Oh, so that's deceptive. They were 13th in points per game. Like,
since they drafted Stroud, they're one of the worst offenses in the entire league. Like going back to 2023, I think they're definitely bottom 10, and I think even bottom 5 in like offensive success rate. It's pretty crazy how bad they've been with such a hyped quarterback. Mm-hmm. And at some point, Stroud has to break out again or prove something like that he can get back to where he was at as a rookie.
2024, they were 25th in yards per drive and 24th in points per drive. So it was the same story offensively, and yet they have won a playoff game in each of the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do, obviously, with the offensive line. But, you know, I do agree that Stroud's got to be better. So, like, I think that, by and large, you know, Texans won 12 games last year. I kind of feel like Houston the way I feel about Cincinnati. Like, I mean, they're obviously better than Cincy, in my opinion, but it's like, I think this team's flaws are still their same flaws, and I think their elite strengths are still their same strengths. So I have them at 8, but, you know, I do think the Texans are a team that, you know, have a really good chance to make the playoffs. Them and the Colts are really close to me. Them, Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, I kind of have all 3 of those teams together where it's like they're wild card pretenders, most likely, in my opinion.
I think Houston's got Super Bowl upside for real. Like, their defense has a certain fear factor about them that is, I think, unmatched anywhere in football. And like Shire, like little things like Azeez El-Shire at linebacker, that's a great linebacker that not a lot of teams have. I feel like Petrie in the nickel like showed out so much last year. I mean, Anderson and Hunter, you're getting in best duo like ever territory. That's probably more
genuinely.
of a conversation for you guys to have maybe someday. But
we've had it. I
really?
think I said they might have been the best ever. I mean, last year as an individual season.
They end drives so quick, like the shortest time of possessions for offense is the most 3 and outs. And like, it is hard to sustain defensive success for sure. But when I look at this group on paper, I'm like, I've taken them over every other group pretty easily, like by far. So that's one thing they have going for them is the most talented looking defense. I think they didn't lose anybody like a Reek Woolen or anybody like that. And then the other thing that I think they have going for them is I'm getting a little bit sick of this too, Logan. This idea that their offense just has to be okay. It just has to be okay and they'll be perfect. And I'm still waiting on them to just be okay, right? And I'm also a little sick of that, but it is true that they do just have to be okay. Yeah. And if they've got this legion of additions coming in Tank Dell coming back from injury, David Montgomery, Braden Smith, Kalen Rutledge, their first round pick. And I'm just like, they really do just have to be okay. And I don't think Stroud is like a total disaster or anything like that. He just needs to manage that Patriots game a little bit better. And when he's under pressure, not throw it up for grabs, falling backwards. Like, just drop the football. You'll be better. Yeah. Throw it into the dirt. You'll be better. Just don't throw it at that angle. And, of course, it lands in the hands of, like, the all-pro punt returner. And you can win that game playing as horrible as you did. So I think that they've got that Super Bowl upside. I think if Tank Dell is really the guy to watch, if he can come back and be what he was before, which is an absolute sick player, that's what I'm really looking for, because Stroud needs a little bit of help. I mean, you look at the offensive pieces that they've added, the skill position weapons they've added since that draft. It's been like, here's Xavier Hutchinson, like here's Higgins, here's Dalton Schultz. Like I'd love to see him with, here's Nick Chubb, like some real juice added around him, and maybe that can take him over the top.
I mean, I'm with you there. I just don't know if the juice has really been added. Like, I think David Montgomery is an upgrade, but, like, he's not particularly explosive. The Texans have never had a good run game in the entire time that CJ's been there, so I'm not expecting that much improvement there. The offensive line is the big thing. If the additions on the offensive line materialize in, like, a dramatically improved unit, that's where I see the Super Bowl ceiling that you're talking about, and that is possible. The offensive lines have been disastrous for Stroud throughout his career so far, and I do think that is probably why he's making some of these like PTSD sort of decisions that we see at this point, where he did not end last year in a good place at all. But then I do think it's also rational to say, if you get solid surroundings around him, this guy can still be a very good quarterback. Like, clearly that talent is in there. So what it really comes down to with me is just, this conference is so good. That's why I landed on the Texans at 8. But also, I feel like last year I was like, yeah, I'm not that high on the Texans because their offense sucks. And then their offense sucked again, and they won 12 games, and they won a playoff game, and they were one of the most terrifying teams in the NFL. And now their offense really does have the potential to be better, and you never know if a great defense is going to be replicated. But I do think one of the safest formulas is we just have like the greatest edge tandem ever. And unless that changes, like unless Danielle Hunter regresses, and like, this ridiculous corner group as well, like everything they do is so simple and so straightforward, and they just absolutely dominate you doing it. So I'm wondering if I'm too low on the Texans, but it's not that I doubt that this is a team that could win the AFC. I kind of think there's 8 teams that could win the AFC if everything were to break right for them. And I am worried enough about the Texans offense to keep them down here, but I'm hopeful for an offensive step forward. I'm hopeful for a Stroud bounce back. Like, I was really freaked out after that Stroud 2-game stretch. I mean, I thought he was just so bad in the playoffs. I thought it was some of just the most panicked, like worst decision-making you'll ever see. But I do feel like having had an off season and allowing the dust to settle from that, like, things are overall positive with him. When you think about the situations he has been put in last year, sure, a bit disappointing, but like, I do think he's a good quarterback who has been put in really bad situations. And if the situation improves, I think he's a quarterback you can win a Super Bowl with. Now, obviously you can win a Super Bowl with a number of guys, but like, I could see him being a Darnold level starter in a Super Bowl run, right? Like, I think he can have big games. I think he can be generally solid. I just still don't know if the offensive infrastructure is there.
He's got to target Nico Collins more. That was kind of my big takeaway from watching Stroud more this offseason. I can honestly write off so many bad playoff performances. Sometimes I think when you get these like implosions, it just kind of means like your offensive infrastructure wasn't that good to begin with, and something got carried a little bit too far, and then things get really out of control, and it looks horrible for whatever unit or whoever, carried them that far to begin with. Sometimes I think that's what these horrific playoff things can be.
And Justin Herbert being mentioned here?
Justin Herbert is one of these guys. Lamar Jackson, I think, is one of these guys. Peyton Manning is one of these guys. I mean, you can point to a lot of horrible playoff performances from a lot of those guys and be like,
it's definitely true for Stroud. They have never made life easy on CJ Stroud for a second.
And they always get to the second round, too. Like, every single year he's in the second round. And his first year in the league, he played the Browns, an elite defense that year, one of the best of all time statistically, and he shredded them in the first round of the playoffs. So what was he then? A terrible playoff performer? He's just someone destined to choke forever? No. But what he does need to do is rip it a little bit more. Like, holy cow. And I've seen plays where Nico Collins is wide open versus zone, and Stroud turns him down. I mean, CeeDee and George Pickens both had a higher target rate than Nico Collins last year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Feed Nico Collins. Feed Nico
take.
Collins, and you'll win the Super Bowl. Like, genuinely.
So where do you have the Texans, Theo? What
I got
number?
them at 5.
Yeah, that's very
Yeah,
reasonable.
I got them in the top 5. And I think they're in a tier a little bit above, like, 10 through 6.
Okay, so who's in your 7 spot?
7, I've got Jacksonville.
Okay, I also have Jacksonville at 7.
Logan, you
Why
look
do
a
you
little
look
disappointed that we're
Logan?
low, that they're
I
all
coached
the
the
way down
team.
here in the 7th seed.
I coach the team, buddy. I love them. You know that.
I've got Jacksonville in my 2 spot.
Holy!
2.
You crazy as a
Trevor.
Move on.
I was on this podcast not that long ago, and I think I was the only person who had Trevor in the top 20 quarterbacks.
No. I had him top 20, but you had him the highest by a good bit. However, we did just rank our top 10 quarterbacks that we'd want most for next season. We both had him on the list. Logan had him at number 8. The crazy son of a bitch. He had him over Joe Burrow and Matthew Stafford. So Logan's done a 180 on T-Law.
I like it. I mean, T-Law is pretty.
You're a sicko.
He ended the season pretty good.
No, he was awesome. I kind of think we hand the reins to Logan here. I mean, he's the one who's got them as a top-tier contender. Talk to us, baby.
I mean, I just see it. Like, when
So
you have they to me, they just have, like,
Glorious.
everything that I look for, man. When you've got a coach that I believe in, like I believe in Liam Cohen, and when you've got a quarterback that I believe in, like Trevor Lawrence, like, it's just pretty simple. Like, I think they're, to me, the most complete team in the AFC South because of my confidence in this offense. Like, I definitely see the angle that Theo's pushing for Houston wholeheartedly. I think they're talented enough, but it's like, and I know Houston's defense is going to be elite, right? But I feel that way about Jacksonville's offense, and I think that they're primed, as great as they were last year, to be even better this season, like with the talent that they have in-house. They do lose Achane to the Saints, but like, if BTJ can hold on to a football, he should be better this year, and they're going to use him in a different way. Jacoby Myers was awesome with T-Law last year. Parker Washington, I think, is a good receiver, and I just think the team is really solid around them, and it's just like, I think T-Law has now reached this like star status where with Cohen, I think he's figured it out. I think he's unlocked his potential as a rushing threat in the red zone. I just like I like their trajectory that Jacksonville is on. I like again, I think they're the best team in this division, and then I just think they're really complete, and them in the top 4 teams. I would say we're talking about tiers, maybe the top 5. I think I would have Jacksonville. You can kind of shuffle around 2 through 5 in my opinion, but yeah, I like their I love their head coach. I love their quarterback. I think the team around them is really solid, and I like them by far the most in the division. So I'm all in on the Jags hype train, man. I think I might take them to the AFC title game this year.
Well, you know how hard I was pushing the Jags train for the entirety of last year from the preseason. They were one of my darlings, and I still like a lot there. I do think Liam Cohen is legitimately brilliant, not just because he's an incredibly good-looking man. I think he's one of the best offensive minds in football, and I am in on T-Law too. I still think he has to show that he's as consistent as the top 8 guys in the NFL. Like, I don't know that we have that body of work out of him yet, but I do think, like, once he's settled into this offense and you got him Jacoby Myers and Parker Washington picked up steam and there were guys who he was comfortable working the middle of the field with, like, he just started ripping. And like you said, tapping into the legs, like, he is such a talent. I mean, Theo, you were saying it all. You were right. Like, he has every high-level trait that you want. He's had it since he was a prospect, and now the situation has materialized where all of that stuff is being realized, and I thought he was really quite a high-level quarterback for the second half of the season. So, like, I really like the offense. I really like the receiving core that they have found. Like, I think BTJ having a bounce-back season is not icing on the cake, but, like, it's not essential because I like Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers that much. And then I do like Tootin. Like, I don't think they're going to miss HN. That's how we're supposed to say it now. That much. I do still think the offensive line is a concern, though, and I think that holds them back from being an elite offense. That and maybe, again, still not being sure that T-Law is the most consistent and seeing, can this run game become more efficient? I think Liam Cohen has
brilliant in terms of calling, designing a run game, but I don't view it as an elite offense. And then I worry about the defense taking a step back. This was a really good defense last year. It was a defense that forced a ton of turnovers, though, which is difficult to replicate. And they lose Devin Lloyd, who was like unbelievably good for them last year. And so I look at their defensive talent and I compare it to a team like New England, who I have one spot above them. I just think they're less talented defensively. So I like Jacksonville. I do. I think number 2 is very high, considering I don't know what their elite trait that I'm banking on is. They don't have the superhuman quarterback. They don't have the uber stacked offense. And again, I think the defense might be more solid than it is upper echelon. So that's why I view them as more of like a playoff team than like a real contender.
Jaguar AFC Championship game or Jaguar Super Bowl would be so fun. If their offense can really hit, it would be so fun. Like, Brenton Strange and Travis Hunter are 2 names that you didn't even mention, like in that receiver room, who maybe have the most upside of any of them. And Parker Washington, like, moved around last year like a little mini Jamar Chase or whatever. Like, he looked like he had really tantalizing potential going forward and is an elite punt returner. BTJ plays like me over the middle of the field, but he's extremely fast and fluid. Like, if he can just kind of be a deep threat, like Marquez Valdez-Scantling on steroids or whatever, or, you know, a Christian Watson or an Alec Pierce or someone with that kind of route diet, could that kind of make his usefulness go way up? You just, it's, if you throw a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence in with a bunch of weapons who all have the ceilings that these guys do, and then just like the metronome getting 900 yards a year that is Jacoby Myers.
Right.
Like, it's super fun to think about. And Cohen, so much of the history of the game is just coaches doing their thing, right? Like, this is a league of coaches. And I mean, the NFC just gets run by Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay and Mike McDonald. Like, what if Liam Cohen is one of those guys who can just manufacture results? I mean, Baker Mayfield had a complete outlier season, 70% completion rate in 2024. Yeah. He's usually like in the low 60s. Like, it is not even close what he did with Liam Cohen, what he did everywhere else. And with Lawrence, I mean, the way he ended the season once he started testing more tight windows and got Jacoby Myers, like 15 touchdowns, 1 interception, 0 interceptions, something like that, to close the regular season. But then they hit the playoffs and they didn't quite keep running. They lost to the Bills. Lawrence wasn't good. And I just, that's what I don't want to get ahead of my skis on the Jaguars and say like, oh, they're arrived as Super Bowl contenders because why did they lose in the first round last year? Why weren't they the 1 seed? Like, why did some of these things go the way that it did?
Josh Allen masterclass.
I mean, they played well against Buffalo. I mean, they weren't like, boat raced in that game. They had it. They had a lead in the 4th.
Yeah, it was close for sure, but they were first rounded, I guess, at home.
I don't know. The result doesn't.
It was.
The result
those were
doesn't.
2 really good teams, though.
Yeah, the result doesn't really matter as much to me, like where they lost, as much as like.
I don't feel like they got exposed in any way. It's like, yeah, T-Law made a couple mistakes,
exactly.
but then T-Law locked in, and T-Law
like
a couple of big time drives.
It wasn't like Pittsburgh
they lost
versus
close
Houston.
To a really good
sure,
team,
sure, it wasn't.
Right.
It was not destruction in any way, shape, or form. But to have them at 2, like,
I just believe in
that is high.
Liam Cohen has shown me he is a brilliant offensive coach. That is the most important skill to have as a head coach. His track record is proven. Trevor Lawrence has shown me in 1 year he is an elite quarterback that has maximized his talent. I love the receiving room. I just think they're primed to be a top 5 offense in the NFL this upcoming season. Like, I do like the offensive line. Like, the defense to me is going to determine do they belong at this kind of ranking, but like I'm all in on Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence, and I don't know. It kind of surprises me that they aren't higher for you guys because I got Liam Cohen over here. I got the T-Law. You've been backing T-Law for so long.
We brought you here, and now as you often do, Logan, you've pushed things even further. This is really your move. You love doing this, and I hope this happens. I love
all
the
in
Jags.
on the Jags.
I don't hate it. But I have him this low because I just want to see it for a full season from Lawrence, because it was kind of a tale of two of them last year. And like Carson said, the turnover luck for their defense, are they really like a top 10 unit? Because if you exclude some of the turnovers, they're not they're like 11th, I think. You can on RBSDM you can
And
mess
then they
with
lost
the win
their
percentage
best
filter.
defensive player.
Well, yeah, and they recovered a historic amount of fumbles. You'd be like, well, why would they ever just get worse with turnovers? It's like, well, they recovered like
Devin Lloyd
more
was a huge
fumbles than
turnover
anybody
enforcer.
else.
Turnovers are like the one-score games. Like there are some schematics that'll point to you know, turning teams over, but it's more,
Right.
you know, that comes
yeah.
and goes every year.
Yeah,
And I mean
if
Devin
the calculator
Lloyd alone forced 6 of those turnovers.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, yeah, like the calculator nerds will tell you, like the Bears are just fucked, right? Like the Bears had a plus 23 turnover margin last year or something like that. They led the league in interceptions with like no pass rush and things like that.
Yeah.
What are the odds that they catch all those again? Or the Packers, like they had a ton of interceptions in 2024. 2025, they dropped them all. Xavier McKinney dropped all of his interception. Packers maybe could have won the Super Bowl if Xavier McKinney catches some Bo Nix picks that he threw in the Packer game.
And we covered this. We did about an hour on this in the NFC episode.
They dropped like 4 of them, and then Micah gets hurt. Like the butterfly, like you said earlier, the butterfly effect can be so crazy. Like man, it just takes one of those dropped INTs, and then your best player goes down, and then you don't get any opportunities for turnovers the rest of the way. So you just never know what can happen. And the Jaguars certainly got the good bounces when it comes to turnovers instead of the bad ones last year, and that had a lot to do with their defensive success.
All right, so let's move on to your 6th spot, Theo. Who do you have?
The Chargers, despite their guard throwing a 49ers player into Biadish's knee and getting him carted off today for zero reason and self-inflicted, and they're cursed. And I'm sure Alt's days are numbered, and Slater's already kind of down, not for the year or anything like last season, but he's banged up. Not a great way to intro the Chargers episode, but it wasn't a great day for them today. But they've got Herbert and Mike McDaniel, and I talked about Mike McDaniel and how his schemes kind of kept the Dolphins afloat earlier in this episode, and now I'm very interested to see him, because the thing that always made him fall short, in my opinion, was Tua, and how he can't do anything out of structure. Like, it just has to be right here, right at this time, and if anything else gets different, or if a defender's not where he expects them to be, stuff falls apart. For McDaniel to have a quarterback like Herbert now, who I assume can hit all those things with timing like Tua could, but also could double move a dig and go deep. Or if it's not open, he can scramble. Or if there's pressure, he can just stiff arm the guy and rip off a 30-yard run. Like, for somebody to have the schematic success that Mike McDaniel has had, with now a quarterback who can cover what warts do pop up, the ceiling for the Chargers is very, 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 very high on offense to me.
Yeah. But you only have them at number 6. I've got them all the way up at number 3, and I'm not going to lie to you guys. There's a part of me that considered painting myself as the fool who is all in on the Chargers and putting them in my 1 spot. And the reason I considered that is I do think out of the teams in the AFC that have the elite quarterbacks and I think have the potential to have these elite offenses, they have the defense that I believe in the most by a good bit. I like their defense more than the Chiefs or the Ravens or the Bills. Like, I think it's a really good defense. They were a very good unit last
Baltimore?
year. Yeah, I still think it's a more complete defense than Baltimore. Like, you lose Jesse Minter, but you replace...
That's what matters to me. But
I mean, that does matter for sure, but I still think it's a very talented defense. And you replace Owe with Mesidor. You've got a lot of pass rushers up front. Henley's a stud. Derwin's a stud. Like, the secondary's pretty good overall. I don't see reason to think this defense is going to drop off significantly from the top 10 unit that they were last year. And then I think the offense could be sick. Like, hopefully Biadasz is okay because he's an addition that matters to me. But
going from disaster O-line to like potential very good O-line with healthy Biotish and then this ridiculously good tackle tandem healthy, like that is a complete 180 potentially in terms of that unit. And then Omarion Hampton, obviously, really good playmaker. He got hurt last year. Like, I just think there's so much room for progress, and this was a team that already won 11 games last year. And then, yeah, it was really ugly in the playoffs, but that's because they were hanging on by a thread because they had just suffered so many injuries. I'm a big Herbert believer. I know that we all are. I'm also a big Mike McDaniel guy, and I think putting Herbert with a mind like that and an offensive line like this and pretty good weapons around him, like the receiving core is still just okay, but talented running back, solid receiving core. I feel like he's destined for his best statistical season, maybe ever, definitely since 2021, and I think this offense is going to be really potent. So I think you could argue them for number one. Now, I'm probably, again, not brave enough to do it because they are the most snake-bitten, cursed franchise ever, and I'm sure a lot of people are already pissed at me even hyping them up this much because they haven't won a playoff game in the Herbert era. Things always seem to go wrong in spectacular fashion, but I just think they're due to get better a lot offensively. Personally, I get it. Herbert's had his playoff stinkers. I really do believe in him. I think he shows you who he is over these entire regular seasons in which he's consistently elite. And if the circumstances align, as I think they can this year, I think this is a team that can win the Super Bowl.
I do too. I mean, I'm pretty high on the Chargers as well. I've got them at 4. I think the defense is going to take a little bit of a step back with the loss of Minter. I just love a guy who can scheme and make the right play call at any given time, but I don't think they lost a ton of talent. I think that they should be, strong in their principles. So I think this is going to be a really good defense again. They're healthy on offense. They've got the best play caller offensively they've ever had. Like you guys are saying, I think McDaniel Herbert is just going to be a sexual kind of OC-QB pairing, one of my favorite in the NFL. I'm so excited to see that. And, so I think the Chargers are definitely a Super Bowl team. Like I said, I mean, the top 5 is about where I draw this kind of line of the 5 are my favorite, and I think the Chargers definitely deserve to be in that inner circle with their improvements this year.
Wow, I'm the lowest on the Chargers. This is weird.
Yeah, you came to a weird podcast, buddy.
I came to weird podcast land. I guess my concern with the Chargers is just like, okay. Mike McDaniel, right? He was great in Miami. He had offenses that scored just like 70 points, right, versus the Broncos, and was one of the best in the league in 2023, and never really got that bad. Like never really, even as
had Tua lead the league in passing and make people think he was good at football.
Yes, yes, that's a better way to put it. He made people think Tua was good. He made Tua be honestly one of the most efficient quarterbacks we've ever seen. Who else made Tua do that? Tyreek Hill made Tua do that. Jalen Waddle made Tua do that as well.
Sure.
Is Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnston on that kind of level where it's like all systems go?
Gadsden doesn't even get a mention.
Gadsden, Njoku, right? Like, do they have the weapons to get Herbert up to like a 5,000-yard season or something?
No. I don't think that he's going to do. I just think there's going to be more balance. Like Hampton being in the fold. With
What are you doing, Chris?
Well, he's done it before. It was a different NFL. It was a more pass-happy league, but he's done it before. Maybe not 5K, but
that's not going to be the identity
I think his
of this
best
team,
statistical season. I mean, I think it's going to be certainly the best run game he's ever been blessed with. And I think you put it well, man. Like, Mike McDaniel to me is a guy who puts you in positions to succeed. He gives you an advantage with how he calls a game offensively. And then you have one of the ultimate problem solvers in Justin Herbert. Scheme can only take you so far, but when you pair scheme with elite talent and every trait that Herbert has, it's like, why wouldn't it work at a really high level? I get what you're saying about the receivers,
just
but
still too many problems to solve. I think personnel-wise would be my concern on offense, where it's like, man, this.
How good do you think the offensive line is? Okay, if Biotish is healthy, how good do you think this offensive line is?
I think the offense could be. I mean, if we're talking could be, hypothetically, Justin Herbert is the best quarterback to ever touch
I love
grass.
where
I
your
think
head's at.
I think hypothetically Justin Herbert could win MVP, and this is the most efficient offense in
might
the
pick
league.
it.
But seriously, yeah, hypothetically it could be that good. But I just don't know if the weapons in the line are there for it to be there. I'm probably more realistically expecting it to crack the top 10. I mean, it's been very, very bad, honestly, with Herbert these last couple of years on a
everybody
down-to-down basis
died.
because he's been hit so much for sure, because he's under so much pressure with the bad weapons, right? But they haven't been like a top half of the league offense, even with Herbert. And so, with McDaniel, I'm thinking, let's get it to the, top 10 where we can actually say, this passing offense is good. It's not just that Justin Herbert is good. The passing offense is good. I think they can get there, but same thing with the Jaguars. Are they going to get all the way up to number 1 right away? I want to kind of see it first before I project it, because we haven't really seen it since Mike Williams and Hunter Henry and Keenan Allen in his prime.
Yeah. Look, I'm not as confident in their offense as I am the Ravens or the Bills. That's why I have the Chargers at 3. But I do think their offense is going to be really good, and I do like their defense more than those other teams. So there you have it, Theo. For the first time in history, you are the lowest on a podcast on the Chargers. So in my 6th spot, I have the reigning Super Bowl runners-up. This is where I have the New England Patriots. I think it's easy to peg the Patriots as a regression candidate because you say, okay, they had the easiest schedule ever, and the AFC is going to be a lot better, and the big dogs are coming back to play. And I think there's truth to all of that, and you can say that offense was exposed in the playoffs. It was an elite regular season offense and then a dysfunctional playoff offense, and Drake May didn't have enough help. He didn't have the playmakers. They couldn't protect, and also he folded under pressure. All those things are true, and yet I think the Patriots won't win as many games or make it as far as they did last year. I do still think they're a pretty good team, though. I like the A.J. Brown addition a lot. I think it's hard not to. It's just awesome when you can pair such a talented young quarterback with a flat-out superstar at receiver, especially when this team was so lacking a high-end playmaker there. I like the Dobbs pickup, too. I like the Elijah Vera Tucker addition. They're solving some of the problems offensively. It's not going to all get fixed overnight. But again, this was a really good offense in the regular season. Got exposed against elite defenses for sure. But if you believe that Drake May is not just going to crumple under pressure like he did in the playoffs, which I do tend to believe, I'm a little bit scared. I was so high on Drake May going into that run. And then it was disastrous for sure. But also, that was year 2. He was unreasonably good for only being in year 2. He could easily get better this year. Maybe not statistically in the regular season, but certainly in the playoffs and in terms of just some of the continued progression that you expect from a quarterback of his age. And then I do still think the defense should be quite good. So, yeah, they're going to run into a tougher schedule. It's still not that tough. Yeah, this offense still isn't loaded. Let's see how good the run game is. I don't think it's an elite defense, but I do think it's a good defense. And so I just think the Patriots are a team that is good on both sides of the ball. And it's not just the fact that, they made the Super Bowl last year. It is impressive they made the Super Bowl in spite of the offense struggling as much as they did when that was their calling card in the regular season. So I think they're going to be a good team again. And clearly we all have them in this range.
I got them a little higher at 4.
Okay.
But
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the Patriots should be pretty good. And the offense, it gets underrated, just how much they rocked last season. It all got just torn up and thrown away in the MVP debate. And then the nail in the coffin was the playoff run, which was horrible. Right. And maybe it is all fluky. But, jeez, we're talking a 70% completion rate from May at almost 10 yards an attempt. It's crazy.
Passing game.
One of the deepest targeted average routes in the league, right? I mean, he is pushing that ball downfield basically nobody else and completing at such a high rate. And then you just add what's it going to look like when it's A.J. Brown running that backside dig instead of Mac Hollins?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal. And I guess my only real question about them is the line for sure. It might be, can Will Campbell come back? Is Caleb Lomu going to be someone who's productive? You've got Jared Wilson as a starter at center. It's just it's a line that's young and can be bull rushed, and May can hold it in those situations. We saw it last season. Can they get a run game going? I think last year Stevenson had, his fumble issues, and I think Henderson kind of fell out of favor, bouncing some runs outside and taking bigger losses than he probably should have, and kind of fallen out of favor that way. And then just how good is this defense really? That's, I guess, my biggest question. But man, this passing offense is, I think I like it more than the Bills even in this division, like with how good May is and with the receiver additions. And that might just be the ultimate trump card, is like May plays like an MVP or wins the MVP.
Yeah, I'm really high on the Patriots again this year. I split the difference between you guys. I've got them in 5. The offensive line is my biggest concern. Will Campbell at left tackle with his historically short T-Rex arms. Old-ass Morgan Moses, is he going to start? Is Caleb Lomu going to start? I have questions there, but the wide receiver room is so much better. A.J. Brown is an actual number 1. Diggs exits. Like, Dobbs is in the fold now. Like, it's kind of crazy, like, how important Hollins and Booty both were to this passing attack and how successful they were with those as the leading receivers. And you can't understate how great Drake May was during the regular season. He was my MVP. He's a phenomenal dual-threat quarterback. I think he is primed to get even better with some of the slight offensive line improvements and the additions in the receiving core. And then I think the defense is just solid. Like, for my money, I think they've got the best corner in football right now in Christian Gonzalez. I think that's who he is. And him or Stingley. I don't know if I can say best. That's close.
Surtain.
Pat Surtain would like a word.
Yeah, it's loaded. Those are the 3, though. I like the Byard addition. I really like their defensive front with Milton Williams and Barmore. I just think the Pats are solid. Honestly, my 2 biggest questions, like you mentioned, Theo, the O-line, and then Carson, you know me. I've been talking about it all preseason. That drama. I don't like drama, and I don't like
the drama. You
the
can't
drama
have
cloud.
the drama around Logan. You just can't
hanging
have
around Mike Vrabel and this team. And I know that that shouldn't be like as big a deal, but it just.
I mean, how big of a deal do you think it is once the bullets really start flying here?
I just mean
it happened during the offseason.
I think it's going to come up. I think at some point in the third quarter, Kyle Williams is going to approach me. He's going to say, "Hey, Coach, I just want to know why you would do something
cheat on your wife."
I mean, wouldn't you be faithful to a woman like that who you've promised your life to, your eternity to? And I think at that point, Kyle is going to become a bit distracted, and maybe he drops a crucial pass. So yes, I think it matters.
Yeah, so I mean, I think Mike Vrabel is going to have to go do mandatory therapy sessions every Sunday for the entire season. They're probably going to have a backup coach in there. It's going to be fucking disastrous.
Most likely, they're going to bring back Gerard Mayo.
Court-mandated therapy sessions for Mike Vrabel are going to derail the season. No, I just more so mean, is this going to be something that continues to get brought up throughout the regular season? Is this going to be a distraction off the field for Mike Vrabel? I'm anti-drama, and so when there's a little bit of drama, I might dock you a couple spots. So I've got the Pats at 5.
You're anti-drama, you're pro-docking, and you're very on the record as both of those things. I feel like it's kind of died down, to be honest with you. I don't know if it's going to linger into the season very much, but
A.J. Brown might. He's kind of got some drama around him.
The drama might come from. But in year 1, I feel like year 1 with a diva receiver, it tends to be pretty blissful.
Just get him his
year
book.
1 with like an MVP caliber quarterback on a team that was just in the Super Bowl, I think it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows for a bit, and then later on maybe that starts to change. Okay, so I had the Broncos in my 5 spot. Logan, you had the Patriots in your 5 spot. Have we filled your 6 spot?
I still don't have my number 7.
Oh my God, I am so sorry, Logan. Who was in your 7 spot?
So, to catch people, I have not revealed my 1, 3, or 7. 4, I had the Chargers. 5, I had the Pats. 6, I had Denver. 7, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know what the fuck to do with Kansas City, man. They've just lost so many important players, and I just don't feel like they've really, replenished the well. I'm going to be honest. I feel quite foolish betting against Patrick Mahomes. I hold him in such high regard, but him coming off of, a major injury, And again, them just like losing so many important pieces over the past few years. Like I am deeply uninspired by the talent of this football team. Like I know what Andy Reid is going to give me. I know what Patrick Mahomes is going to give me. I'm excited by the prospect of them bringing in K9 and bringing some life to this running game that has been non-existent for the past few years. Like, it's really just the talent, man. Like, I just think the Chiefs have really regressed, and I know that they have this like status, and it's warranted. Like, they have been a dynasty, but I still think they're a playoff team. I'm not really moved. I don't really see why Kansas City should be among the upper echelon this season unless you're going, Mahomes is going to come back and he's going to be everything that he was before, and he's just going to, wave his magic Mahomes wand and the Chiefs are going to be in the Super Bowl again. I just don't see it with KC this year.
That is what's going to happen. I've got Kansas City at 1, and it is because of the magic Mahomes wand. He's going to hit you with the Mahomes blast, buddy.
He may do that.
How are you how are you so like coach and quarterback, man? Those are the things.
Well, it's
and then you're like
Mahomes coming off of it's a good point. It's Mahomes coming off of the injury, and then just Kelsey's slight regression. I don't love Mahomes's receivers. I have questions about the offensive line. Like, they've lost so many important pieces on the defense and in the secondary. Like, there's just I'm quarterback and coach pilled, but there's so much variable change with the Chiefs this year, and then I sprinkle in the Mahomes leg injury, and it's like I don't know. I'm just scared enough to not put them up in back where they've been for the past 5-6 years for me.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Reid slipped a little bit in the Athletics play caller poll where people questioned if he still had the juice. He was still in there though, and Orlovsky did his quarterback trait rankings and
he loves Pat McAfee's new album.
More in his music reviews,
and that would lead me to believe that Mahomes is washed. Looking at some of the stats and some of the rankings and some of the experts, but I go through the Chiefs tape and I think Mahomes is the best in the entire league. And I feel very comfortable saying it. Shout out Josh Allen and shout out everybody.
You said it a little timidly for being very comfortable. You sort of did a sing-songy whisper.
Well, I know who I'm on I'm worried that my screen's about to go black.
I could punch you through the screen. That's fair. I really
No, I think Mahomes is the best. I mean, he just gets through reads so quickly. His anticipation and the way he throws the ball early is just at a completely different level these past couple of years. And then he's got all the off the back foot, getting hit, sidearm, whatever you want to do. The stuff that makes Chris Collinsworth nut is all still there, right? So I just think he is this piece that you can never write off, right? You can never write off dynasties generally. Like that year that the Patriots fell off, it wasn't when Tom Brady was 30, let me tell you. And that you get K9, that's the best weapon he's had since Tyreek Hill was probably in his prime, or was on the team, I should say. I don't know. I just think this was a team that was pretty dangerous on offense before Mahomes went down. Now you're adding a really great running back into there. Sure, the weapons aren't great. If Kelsey can hold onto the ball and not act like it's a slippery fish that bounces up into the air and gets picked off in all the crucial moments last year, I actually think he probably has some underrated wiggle still at this point.
Oh, yeah.
And just he couldn't catch the ball. I think that's probably part of being washed is him not having the hands that he used to have. But it's something that I can also see not biting the Chiefs as badly as it did last season. Because it was honestly hilarious. The Eagles game, it bounces up in the air off his hand. I think the Texans, he had some plays like that. It literally he volleyballs it right to the defender.
He was on his Mark Andrews shit, bro.
I don't know. Shout out, Rashee Rice should be healthier. Tyquan Thornton had a bit of a breakout and is now kind of established in the lineup. I think that those two things can go a long way for these weapons. They added 2 first-round picks, Mansour Delane and Peter Woods, albeit they had to replace
Yeah.
Who did they have to replace, Carson?
Trent McDuffie, Jim
Yeah.
Johnson,
Yeah,
Chanel, now gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just think Mahomes has gotten to the Super Bowl with about maybe not worse, but the same.
You have them at 1. That is you're locked.
Yep.
What about you, Carson?
I have them at number 4. I am all in on the Chiefs' offense. I think the offense is going to be sick. Are you not worried about the defense, Theo? Because I'm pretty worried about the defense.
I'm pretty worried about the secondary. I do love Mansour Delane. I think I do. I mean, he is a rookie, and I don't know.
Yeah.
But, like, he was pretty talented mirroring and man coverage and also, like, in zone, closing spaces very quickly. And I'm like, okay, if you could play man in zone, sure. Like, you're a pretty good corner. Yeah. And then they traded up for him. I was like, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty serious answer to losing Trent McDuffie. They've been able to kind of develop all kinds of defensive pieces that have kind of left the building and
they have.
And then they just kind of reappear being solid. Who thought they could replace like L'Jarius Sneed, who is a Pro Bowler, right? Like one of the most efficient corners in the league when targeted. And
now
he
he's
left
back.
and he stunk, and now he's back. And I don't know. They've kind of been able to develop these corners. They have a very valuable asset in that corner room. And Chris Jones is still a beast, I think. He's still a top 5 defensive tackle to me. I kind of like some of their pieces like Ashton Gillette on their defensive line. Obviously, Peter Woods is a young rookie who kind of slipped in the draft to them. I'm worried about the defense for sure. But I also don't think – it's hard for me to look at Jones and be like, this is really scary. Like, let me know when he retires, and then I'll start to get really, really scared.
I'm not worried about him individually very much. I just think the unit has bled a lot of talent. And I think that's been happening year over year. And this year it's pretty significant. Now, the Chiefs have had an ability to kind of spawn good DBs, good corners specifically. Like, I give them credit for that. But they just let 2 awesome ones walk. And I can't help but be worried about that. Especially when, I mean, the secondary overall outside of those 2 guys, like, was already iffy. And now those 2 guys are both gone. So it's a lot of pressure put on a rookie, even though he is talented. The linebacking core, I don't like so much with Chanel gone, and I don't think there's much of a pass rush. So, like, yeah, Chris Jones can be awesome, and that helps, and I don't think the defense is going to suck, but I don't think the defense is going to be good. I feel like it's going to be a below-average defense.
I think there's more talent on the D-line than you're giving it credit for. They have a real nose tackle this year in Tonga, which they didn't have last year. I think that's a huge help. I mean, Tillery was playing nose for them at points, and that didn't go well. I think Karlaftis is underrated by a lot of people. I think Karlaftis and Jared Verse are like the same. I think like Karlaftis had that many quick pressures last year.
I think my biggest issue is just the back 7. I don't mind the D line, but I don't know. My big concern is the linebackers and really the secondary. There's so much turnover over the last 2 years, and who knows, man? I mean, this could be my Steelers, right? Like you making the Steelers take it, I could just whiff on the Chiefs, but like, I don't know. Maybe if Spags can get these DBs up to speed, like maybe I will feel differently about the Chiefs. It's just there's so much defensive turnover over the last 2 years, man. A lot of really good players leaving.
Yeah, 100%. And it scares me as well, but I just look at all these teams and I'm like, there's kind of something that scares me about all of them. And if I can – and just Mahomes is the trump card. Like that's all it comes down to. It's like I just feel like he's so – consistent every single year. He's so good in the playoffs. He had a really bad go of it with the weapons last year and just still was playing, I think, at an MVP level. Like it just having a guy like that with a run game makes me think like these guys are going to be at the top of this really tough division again. And if they're at the top of this really tough division, why can't they be on top of the entire conference? Yeah, I don't know. There's one other team I think I have in their tier.
Okay.
But the Chiefs are my number 1.
Look, I don't think it's crazy I actually defended the Chiefs a lot last year, quite fruitlessly, because I was like, well, actually, I think they might be better than last year. And, they're sitting there and they're like 6-6, but they've got like a plus 6 point something point differential per game. And it's like they've just had the complete opposite luck, where last year they won every one-score game. Talking about 2024 and 2025, they couldn't win any of them, and they were losing these close games to really good teams. And it's like, actually, they're statistically better on both sides of the ball. And I said all these things, and then they still fell to 6-7, and then Patrick Mahomes tore his ACL, and then obviously from that point forward, they were just completely incompetent. So I think the Chiefs were better last year than most people. I was higher on them already. And like I said, I think the offense could be the best in the NFL. The fact that when Mahomes got hurt, with the injuries to the offensive line that they had, with the lack of weapons in the passing game, with the least explosive run game of all time, they were still 8th in points per drive. They were still in the top quartile. Like, when you get a healthy group of weapons and a healthy offensive line that I think can be quite good, and you add one of the more explosive, dynamic running backs in the game, like, yeah, they could be the number one offense this year. So it's not that I doubt the possibility of that. I think the offense is going to be elite. I just think there's a lot of pressure on them. I think it's going to be a really good offense, but I think the offense is going to be asked to carry. And maybe I am underrating Chris Jones and what they are going to be able to do with a guy like Delane. And the defense last year wasn't bad statistically, but again, they just let a lot of good dudes walk out the door. So I don't know that this is like a retool year with the Chiefs. I think they can be really good. I think they have a chance to get to the Super Bowl. I just wouldn't pick it. I just don't think they're quite that talented. But
I see it. It's not their most, they'll never be their most talented iteration ever again, because Mahomes and Kelsey and Hill and Jones all were in their prime at their same point at one point. Yeah. But I think this is a chance to be they won a Super Bowl without Tyreek, and I think this is about as good of a team as they've been, I think. But yeah, I get having questions on the back end, and maybe Reed's offense has gotten a little bit stale. Maybe it's the worst as well. I can see it both ways, but I just think once the bullets start flying, the Chiefs are going to start winning games. I've said bullets start flying way too much this week. That's my new favorite phrase now that I've been watching preseason.
Yeah, I've
been watching preseason being like, the bullets aren't flying right now. There are no bullets flying at all in these preseason games.
Yeah. I hope that when the bullets start flying, K9 is the difference maker we hope he is, and Mahomes is the same guy, and the ACL doesn't matter, because I don't think it really will. It is a significant injury. I think he's going to be the same guy, but I think there are some concerns with the Chiefs. And you're right, there are concerns about anybody, but I don't know. I have them in my 4 spot. I'm a little bit more confident.
You're getting their ass in the AFC Championship game, buddy.
I'm ready. I'm ready. And I'm ready to get my heart broken again. It's going to be the greatest thing ever, and I can't wait. And that's how I'll know that everything is back to normal in the AFC. Okay, so in my 3 spot, I had the Chargers. Logan, we're still missing your 3 spot, but Theo, we're also missing your 3 spot. Are we not?
My 3 spot is, what did I write down? Oh, the Buffalo Bills are my number 3.
Oh, I've heard of them.
Same here.
Yeah. Okay, I have them in my 2 spot. So very similar.
Yeah. I'm a little worried I'm too high on them. But I have them in my 3 spot.
Well, tell us
How do you feel about the defense?
Oh, not very good, Theo. Thank you for asking. Not great.
Okay.
I'm not moved. I'm not moved by anything with the defense. I'm not moved by the pass rush. I'm not moved by the secondary. I'm not moved by the state of the run defense. I think it's pretty much same old story. This is why I'm not going to pick them to win the AFC. Just coming into the year on paper, I don't think they have the best roster in the conference. I do think they're the best bet in the NFL, other than maybe the Rams. But year over year, there is no safer prediction that you could make in the 2020s than the Buffalo Bills are going to have a top 5 offense. They are going to have an elite rushing attack. They are going to have an elite passing attack. And now, adding DJ Moore into the fold, I am optimistic about that. I am optimistic about what an actual number 1 receiver can unlock in terms of the explosiveness of this passing attack. I think Josh has done an incredible job over these last couple years, but statistically, I think he might have a bigger season through the air this year, bringing in a guy like DJ Moore who can be an actual big-time playmaker, and then hopefully Dalton Kincaid is healthier, and the offensive line is really good. We know that. Like, I think the offense is going to be awesome, and there are always things to nitpick, but maybe with DJ Moore, there won't even be anything to nitpick, because the thing to nitpick last year was the receivers, especially at the end of the year. No, I'm talking about the offense. With the defense, there's plenty to nitpick, and honestly, it's not nits. It's like a lot of pretty large leeches, because it's the same story that ends every season. And you can say last year was different, right, because Josh wasn't good enough and he made mistakes, and I think that's true. And at the same time, the Bills still put up 30 points on an elite defense, and they still allowed 33 points, and the defense still wasn't good enough against what was a middling offense in the regular season. So that's why I have them at number 2. I know what they're going to be amazing at, and it's the offense. I think the regular season defense will probably be fine, but it's like, even though I had enough of McDermott, I still think the fundamental shortcomings of this defense are going to be personnel. I don't think just getting more aggressive solves that they don't have a game-changing pass rush, that they just don't have the talent. They don't have the playmakers. They don't have the stars defensively. And unless, like, Greg Rousseau takes a leap,
well,
I just don't really see the path. I'm not that moved by Bradley Chubb. It's something, but it doesn't, like, really move me.
It's Walker who has to take
I like Walker a lot.
Walker is the guy where it's like, okay, there's somebody there with like really high end upside because he's so big, but he's also able to win on your edge pretty easily. And he's someone that I'm excited to see in kind of this more aggressive penetrating scheme for sure. You're getting Ed Oliver back. Ed Oliver, hopefully he's still what he was. I watched the preseason game and I wasn't like in love with what I was seeing from Ed Oliver, but I was in love with what I was seeing from De'Aaron Walker.
Yeah.
So how much does it matter? I feel like they just don't have to be such a bad run defending unit. Like they were so bad. They allowed like 200 yards to Derrick Henry and like 150 to Bijan Robinson and whoever else you want to say, like
30th in yards per attempt allowed, 28th in total yards allowed. They were bottom tier run defense.
I just feel like with Bernard and Walker and Oliver and Rousseau, like it doesn't have to be that bad. Maybe if you're just sending a few more blitzes and not worrying about monkeying with the back end as much as maybe they were. But monkeying with the back end also gave them a pretty good secondary, and maybe there's a monkey's paw trade-off there. I don't know. I'm very interested to see what this defense looks like with Leonard, because it might not be very talented and it may collapse, but I also feel like guys like Hairston and guys like Walker give a bit of upside.
Yeah, Hairston's another big swing factor. We'll see what he can actually do this year. And Ed is a swing factor. I mean, I think you addressed all of the big X factors for what this defense can be. It's just hard for me to be optimistic when it feels like every year I highlight an X factor and then it never quite materializes, but I do like De'Aaron Walker a lot. I do. But I still think like it's that edge presence to me. Yep. And they have tried to build it in the aggregate. They've tried to put 2 B- edge rushers together. And it kind of feels like they're doing that again with Chubb and Rousseau. It's like, here are 2 guys who are pretty good. But like, who's going to win? Who's going to break a game? Who's going to end big drives? I've just never seen it from this defense in the playoffs. That being said, I don't think you're too high on them having them at number 3 because 6 straight years they have won 11 to 13 games. 6 straight years they have won at least 1 playoff game. Like, in terms of the regular season, they're the most successful franchise of this decade, and they are the most successful team in terms of winning this many playoff games over a period like this to not win multiple Super Bowls. So the Bills are going to be really good. I know that. Are they going to be great? Are they going to win a Super Bowl? I'm not convinced, unfortunately. I think the offense is going to be sick, though. And like, the offense is always great. I think it is going to be maybe a level up this year.
I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but you really can't like praise Josh Allen enough in the way he's playing.
But you can try.
You can try.
Yeah,
you could try.
And you can't.
Start. Yeah, I don't know. At least you could get to the fumble and Denver and some of those things. But it's like, even in the Denver game, it truly catches in my throat to critique him because it's like he's the only reason that they have any
Yeah.
kind of chance. And he makes 5 plays every game that like only he can make, and like 5 explosives is enough to win you like
Yeah.
most football games, and he just is guaranteed to basically provide them. So yeah.
Logan?
I feel the same way about the Bills I have the past, 5 years. Like you guys are saying, I know what I'm getting with the offense. Can they hold together for 3 to 4 games in the playoffs is really the question. Like, I just don't have any doubt about what this team is going to look like in the regular season, how successful their offense is going to be, and again, how successful this team is going to be despite what you get out of any of these variables on the defense. In spite of an elite pass rush, in spite of an bad rushing defense. They were like historically bad rushing. I can't even say like average.
Terrible.
This was one of the craziest facts of the season to me from the Bills. 2 teams, the 2025 Giants and the 2025 Bills last season, 2 of the top 15 worst rushing defenses by yards per carry allowed in NFL history. The 25 Giants rank 4th in that department at 5.31 allowed per carry. The Bills are down at tied 13th. They allowed 5.14 yards per carry last season on the ground. So a truly historically bad rushing defense. And despite of all that, that's not a phrase. In spite of all that, the Bills were still a really good football team and on the verge of potentially going to the AFC title game again. So it's like, can they hold it together? Can they get a 3-4 game? And it's not even Allen. I'm not even worried about Josh Allen having one of these doo-doo, poop, nasty, crap his pants games like the media wants to tell you that he has every other game. That's like one game in his playoff career he's done that, and it was his last one against Denver. And like you guys are saying,
Not even that is what you just said. The disgusting words you just said wasn't good enough. He still led a comeback effort. He still
turnovers.
produced
You're going to
350.
get the ass at a game, which you deserve. And I get
2 of them were not his fault at all. I'm just saying, like, look, he wasn't good enough.
His worst playoff game.
Ben Roethlisberger had 5 TDs in a game. He had 5 picks in the playoffs too. It's
That's
like,
not the same
man.
thing. That's not the same thing. When you have a blindside strip sack that happens in 1 second, and then you have interception that will be debated until the end of time. But you put the ball in your receiver's hands 50 yards downfield, and if he catches it, then you win the football game. And
his real worst
Josh's
playoff game happened.
Resume is remarkable.
His real worst playoff game was versus Miami a couple of years
It's
ago.
valid. He was sloppy in that game. But I've read the career playoff numbers with him a million times. He averages 1 million yards per game, and he has 1 million touchdowns against no turnovers. It's ridiculous what he does in the playoffs.
So, yeah, I mean, it's the Buffalo Josh Allens versus the world, and I'm not any more confident in them this year just because I don't really like Joe Brady, and I'm not really inspired or moved at all by the defensive additions and theoretical improvement. I really just think that the Bills are the exact same team that they've been for the past, 2 to 3 years. The line is really good. James Cook rocks. He needs to hold on to the football better this year. Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the game. The offense is going to rock. Can the offense propel them to the Super Bowl in spite of the defense? I'm skeptical. And so, like Carson, I'm not a fan of the Bills, but I have been burnt enough by betting on the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs that I will not be taking them to the Super Bowl this year because I'm betting against history. So, yeah, I think they're the same team.
Yeah, well, be worried that they're a little worse because Joe Brady's a good point. Their process over the last couple of years has been pretty questionable, and I think Brady is maybe the most questionable of all of those moves. I just feel like he had some really head-scratching performances last year. I get that they had guys that couldn't beat man, and guys played a lot of man against them for that reason, but the amount Brady relies on interference downfield is through the roof and messes with spacing at times. If it's disguised man and then zone, it can really cause problems. That Texans game when Spencer Brown wasn't getting any help, I'll never forget it. That is an unbelievable oversight. And it seems like the offensive line coach that retired, Kramer, right? He had a big hand in play calling and organizing the entire run game. Yeah. So Brady's got to kind of deal with that absence now and do a good job there, as well as improving his process as a pass game coordinator, right? So can he go up against a winner like Vrabel in this division and like outwit him twice or whatever needs to be done to win this division? Can he go up, everybody connected with Josh Allen gets jobs and everybody not connected with Josh Allen gets fired. What you might get left with is just Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And that is what I get concerned with the Bills. Like this Bradley Chubb contract is pretty rough in my opinion. One of the worst of the offseason as well. He's old, kind of declining. Like, that's not a guy you give serious money
just
to.
So on brand, dude. So like it's just
if we could have paid Von Miller again, we would have. Yeah.
It's like I'm watching a rerun, man.
Yeah, all Bean is good at is getting extensions done early. That's like his only saving grace, because they got Khalil Shakir on like a decent contract and some other guys on decent contracts. And outside of that, I just don't love the GMing or the ownering.
Yep.
What about the stadium though, Carson? What do you think of the stadium?
I'm excited to see the stadium. I will be there like week 3. I think I'm going to the Chargers game, so I'll be there pretty early in the season. I'll report back then. But I think it's a good stadium. I think the fact that they went with sort of like open air but still having some protection from the elements, I think that was the happy medium. So I'll give them their points for that. Of course, the all gray unis are horrifying, so I subtract points for that. And I think the Joe Brady point is a good one. I was disappointed with that decision. I just think if you look at the Bills of the 2020s, right, and I will recite these numbers one more time. Josh Allen in the playoffs has 4,700 total yards, 39 touchdowns against 10 turnovers, and the Bills score 28 points per game. He's been incredible. The offense has been incredible. They have lost because of failures in coaching and of the defense, and I just don't think they meaningfully solved either of those things.
And they're the best coaching location that you could possibly open up. It's Josh Allen. Like, you could hire Minter or Flores or like someone who
you could get Kubiak to run the offense and Minter to run the defense. They probably both sign up for it.
I don't know, like somebody who creates some more defensive value. Although I thought they'd sign somebody who came from a really, really well coordinated defense in Denver. So maybe the defense ends up being okay anyway. But I don't know. How are you hiring Jim Brady? You're the Bills. You're a Lamborghini, and you hired like your old janitor.
And are almost certainly now committing like multiple years to that in an offseason where there were a bunch of good candidates. I don't like Pagula. I don't like Brandon Beane. And Joe Brady, I'm hoping, can prove me wrong. I mean, Lord knows I hope that he can prove me wrong, but I have seen him calling the offense, and it's just not the guy who I would have promoted to head coach at such a pivotal stage of Josh Allen's career.
We want Leslie Frazier.
Bring back Leslie. What a legend. Okay, that being said, we all still have the Bills in our top 3.
We want Tomlin.
Number 2. Well, maybe to run special teams or something. Maybe for motivational speeches.
Voodoo magic coach.
So, Logan, your 1 spot is open. My 1 spot is open. Theo's 2 spot is open. And there's only one team left. The Baltimore Ravens earn the highest aggregate score. I will say a bit ironic after us all being like, we can't pick the Bills to get out of the AFC, that we then pick the Ravens, who have
not me.
All the expectations. Not you. That's true. But you still have them above the Bills. They've had all the expectations, and they do not have the playoff success even that the Bills have had. But, Logan, why are you buying them as the favorite in the AFC?
They got better, I think. This is a team that I buy into every single year because they have Lamar Jackson, who is a god at football. Carson and I always recite these numbers, but he is a walking, breathing, living number 1 rushing attack. Every year that Lamar Jackson is healthy and available, the Baltimore Ravens are the best rushing attack in the NFL. Derrick Henry's back. Lamar is back. If he still stays healthy and available, I think they, again, will be the best rushing attack by far in football. And I don't think the Ravens are as talented as they have been in years previous. That being said, I do think they are going to be better coached, and that really matters to me in a big way. I just believe in their defensive scheming a lot more with a guy like Minter at the helm, where I feel like they've had talent in defenses, but they haven't had the play caller to really get the most out of them. Like, I thought Orr was just horrible. I don't think he has been good at his job since he was there. I don't think Harbaugh has been a good head coach. I think that Harbaugh has been kind of living off of that one Super Bowl ring and Lamar Jackson's success on his end since he came in. You remember Harbaugh was on the hot seat before they got Lamar. Lamar comes into the fold. Oh, Harbaugh's a great coach again. It's like, I don't think Harbaugh was horrible, but I don't think he was elevating these teams. I do think that Minter is going to come in here, elevate this team, elevate this defense. And then again, when you got the bedrock that is Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry offensively, I'm just really confident in this team on both sides of the ball. And then you get into the nitty-gritty of these teams. You look at some of the minor improvements. I'm really high on Jacoby Lane. I am really excited about his potential in this offense alongside Zay Flowers, another actual playmaker for Lamar. And then defensively, like I said, I think there's a lot of talent already in-house, and they have been a talented defense. They add Trey Hendrickson, but now they actually have a coach and a coordinator that can get the most out of this defense. And so I really just like the Ravens' recipe. I mean, I guess my only skepticism for this team, I said it for Mahomes, so I think I have to say it for Lamar. Lamar's coming off of a pretty big injury, right? He was not himself last year. If Lamar comes back and doesn't look like himself, or this injury is lingering and hindering his play, obviously that makes a difference on my outlook for Baltimore. And then injuries in general for Baltimore. Baltimore is one of these teams like San Francisco. I don't know what it is about them. I don't know if they have an unknown substation in Baltimore that we need to get to the bottom of.
Dig into that.
If they just get bit by the injury bug like San Fran does every year. Injuries have been a consistent issue with Baltimore every single season, and them just staying healthy. But I just think they're the most complete team in the AFC, and I really like their coach. I really like the offensive infrastructure. And ultimately, there's just nobody else in their division that, I think is going to really push them. I like Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh could steal a game off of Baltimore in the regular season, but I just really like them. And I think Baltimore it's kind of like how Theo's betting on Kansas. They're just about as safe as a bet normally every single year in, year out to bet on. So, yeah, I like Baltimore. I think right now I would take them probably to be the representative out of the AFC.
I do wonder how many years I've had Baltimore as my pick out of the AFC going into the year.
Me too, bro.
Because I think it might be 4. Generally, my pick is what I'll do is I'll start highest on Baltimore. Then at some point late in the season, I'll gradually move over to Buffalo. And then neither of them will get out of the AFC. And
you'll see Josh Allen play one time, and you'll be like...
see Josh Allen play and go, oh, wait, hold on a second. This guy's the greatest fucking thing to ever happen. Defense, they'll figure out the defense. They'll be okay enough. I want that guy. But if I can't have Josh Allen, then Lamar Jackson is pretty much the next best thing. And in terms of seeding, the Ravens do have an easy schedule. Like you're saying, Logan, not really a threat in the division. And I am expecting a bounce back from the defense, getting healthier, getting Matabike back, and bringing in Trey Hendrickson is a huge addition, and adding Jesse Minter and just being healthier across the board. I do think there's still a lot of talent on this defense, and Minter could be an actual difference maker for them. And then offensively, it's like when Lamar is on the field, you're going to be a top 5 offense if he plays the full season. And if he gets back to 100% health, which I am hoping and expecting he does, he's just a completely transformative player. You give him another weapon in Jacoby Lane. I still certainly don't think that the receiving core is stacked here, but it's pretty solid. And he's got a god at running back, and he's a god at quarterback. And the offensive line, I don't love. That may be a bit of a concern, but I think the offense is going to be really good, and I just buy their defense more than I do Buffalo's. I value the fact that they have actual superstars on that side of the ball. I think they added a really good defensive coach. So I do think, for me, they check the most boxes.
Yeah, they've got stars at all 3 levels of the defense and a coordinator that knows what to do with all that. It's a pretty good combination. The Chargers have been Flores-esque, I feel like, on their third down pressures over the last years with Minter. They can really, attack your scheme, get on a running back, and if that's Kyle Hamilton, it's just over. Or if it's Roquan Smith. Mm-hmm. They're getting Matabike back after missing all the last season with a neck injury. Yeah. That really just screwed them completely. Adding in Trey Hendrickson, Calais Campbell, the old mercenary is here. I like the Zion Young pick as a run defending edge. Minter needs those guys to play those 2 high shells and disguise everything. I'm a little bit worried about Hendrickson, honestly, in that capacity, but that's okay because they've needed that one-on-one pass rush winner. Yeah, I think Lamar paired with Minter compared with stars at every level is a good combination. Add on top of it Henry, and yeah, you've got a pretty elite contender in the AFC.
So, there you have it, folks. I don't think we need to run down our entire rankings, each of us, because we have already kept you, Theo, for 3 hours, which is just our favorite thing to do, but it pales in comparison to what we're going to do towards the end of the season when we rank every starting quarterback.
Oh, boy.
Because the first time we did that, it was like 3 hours. The second time, it was like 4 hours. We're gunning for the 5-hour pod this year, the record-breaking 5-hour pod. So, thank you, Theo. We appreciate you tolerating us holding you hostage, as always. Everybody go support Theo. Everybody go listen to the Stay Hot podcast. Everybody go join the Stay Hot Patreon. Everybody go follow Theo Ash NFL on TikTok. Is there anything else you want to say before we let you get back to your life?
Go Pack, go.
Oh, beautiful. I mean, that's a man who really knows what it's all about in this life. Go Bills. Logan.
Go Steelers.
Nice.
First down, Steelers.
All right. Well, we appreciate all you guys watching.
What's McAfee's song? Blue Collar Symphony or whatever. If you got
Blue
all
Collar
that down.
Symphony, Mugshot and a Pit Bull. You can't forget about Mugshot and a Pit Bull. You can't forget about Glory to the South, Hail the South.
About Dookie.
What is it?
Guys.
Dookie is
Glory
biggest
to
hit,
the
but that was
South.
off his
Is
previous
Pittsburgh
album.
the South?
My bad.
No,
Pittsburgh's
I'm
in
just-
Pennsylvania, if I remember right.
I'm just reprising Pat McAfee's discography at this point. I'm going to start doing covers.
Is
pretty soon.
Indianapolis in the South?
No.
No.
Virginia's the cutoff.
That
Where
Mason
did he-
Dixon
oh,
line.
he was West Virginia. What about West Virginia?
Nope.
Pat McAfee?
Ooh.
Is that where he's from? I thought he was from Pennsylvania.
He's from.
Why did I
he's
think
from,
that?
Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Oh, he is.
School at West Virginia and then NFL at
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis. So I'm wondering where the Hail to the South. Like,
Oh,
I
no,
think it's more
not.
so just a
He's,
vibe. I don't
he's
think
doing
he's
what's known as LARPing.
from the South at all.
Yeah, he is LARPing
ah,
as a
He's
song.
him?
Mhm, I know. Theo, I was as shocked as you. I put the album on and I said, hold on a second. Where'd this accent come from? This isn't the Pat I listen to for 4, 5, 6 hours every day. But I'll tell you what, he sure can turn a tune, can't he?
Can't
I don't know
he?
what was better, the lyrics or the freaking voice of an angel that guy's got. Now, I'd love to do an entire pod on Pat McAfee's new album, but I do think it's about time that we wrap this thing up. So, thank you, Theo. Thank you all you guys for watching. We hope you all liked our rankings, or if you hated them, that's okay too, as long as you have kindness in your heart and you are following the light and the path that Logan Camden sets for us all each day. So, with that, I've been Carson Brabber,
I have been Logan Campton.
I've been Theo Ash.
and this was Nerd Sesh.